Those the five that we're expecting on Zoom. Very good. Madam Secretary, Regent Thomas, if you would call the roll, please.
All right, Regent Bell,
Present.
Regent Ball. Regent Ball. Oh. Regent Brinkley,
Present.
Regent Brody,
Present.
Regent Dennison. Present. Thank you that you're here. Chair Milliken,
Present.
Regent Nichols,
Present.
Regent Spiller.
Present.
Regent Thomas. Vice Chair West.
Present.
And Regent Kurtz.
Present.
We have 5 members present in person and 5 by Zoom. For a total of 10 members, which constitutes a quorum. Before we get about today's business, I would just like to make a comment, and I know we have seen these figures before, we've all been provided them, but I think they are worthy of mention because I think it shows what is happening as far as our university is concerned. Our total enrollment fall semester here at WKU is up 5.8%. Enrollment for degree-seeking students is up 1.5%. Enrollment of our freshman cohort is up 3.3%. Graduate enrollment is up 5.6%. This represents the first increase in overall degree-seeking enrollment since 2010, and the first increase in overall enrollment since 2016. WKU's first and second year student retention is 6.7 percentage points, and underrepresented minority retention jumped 15 percentage points, the largest increase in 5 years. These are significant increases. And to me, it demonstrates that there's a lot of good work going on here at this university, and we can all be proud of that. And the beneficiaries of this are our students and this university, which is what this is all about. Because after all, this is the business we're in, is to educate these students and prepare them for a better life and better existence. These things don't happen by accident. A lot of people have put in a lot of hard work, and they are all to be commended. Everybody that has contributed to these good numbers. And I just felt like that was worthy of mentioning before we got started in our committee reports today. Our first committee report will be our Academic Affairs Committee. Dr. Bale, who is recovering from COVID, is here with us, and I'm happy he's able to be up and about at least to talk with us. So I will turn that committee over to you, Dr. Bale.
Okay, thank you. And I am glad to be with everybody on Zoom, even though it's not near as good as being there in person. The statistics you mentioned are counter trends. You know, we're doing much better than a lot of our contemporaries, as we've seen in the news what's going on at Miami University up in Ohio and at West Virginia University. We should be thankful and proud of the hard work that everyone has done, as you have mentioned. A lot of that work is done in our academic areas, and Provost Fisher, I assume and hope, is present today, and we have some action items that I'll ask him to present.
So the first item we have on the docket is academic program suspension for floristry minor. It was asked for by the faculty. There was a limited number and they have chose to go a different way. What they would like to do is now focus those resources on an undergraduate certificate that will attract a greater number of people than just in the ag department. And so they're going to suspend and they will have a new certificate as we move forward.
Okay, any questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 1. Have a motion from Regent Brody. Actually, these are committee meetings, and so these really need to come from committee members. We have 4 of our 5 members present. Regent Ball was unable to attend today. She notified me earlier this morning, had an unexpected emergency come up, but Regent Kurtz, Nichols, and Spiller are all there, so I'll entertain a motion from one of them if we may.
I second the motion.
Regents
Well-
Spiller first, Phil.
We have a motion
Oh,
from
okay.
Regent Spiller.
Okay, very good. Motion from Regent Spiller and a second from Regent Nichols. Any discussion, comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Action item 2.
So action item 2 is approval for academic program suspension for the following program, which is a Master of Science in Child and Family Studies. If you have read the material or you have looked at it, you've seen that there's been a
Recording in progress.
That there's been a decline in enrollment, a significant decline now to 7 individuals. And what we will do is certainly teach it out at this point. But the faculty have asked to suspend the program and move the resources to the undergrad program that is growing to be more efficient.
Comments? Questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of action item 2 as described. Okay, I think that was Regent Spiller. Again, didn't hear that real well. Shane, was
Yes.
that you making a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
Second from Regent Nichols. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay, motion passes. And our third action item is concerns an emeritus appointments.
We have 2 emeritus appointments that we put forward to the board. The first one is for Dr. Fred DeGraves, who joined us in 2011 as an assistant professor and actually worked his way up to be department chair for a number of years for the ag department. What we also see is that he has been proficient in all areas, that is teaching, research, and service. And one of the great things that Fred did is that he was really helped students get into vet school. That was his passion, and he is a veterinarian also. So his passion was to see that people get into vet school through this process that we have in this state that allows you to go to Auburn. So we have had significant number of students go to Auburn as vet school. In addition, he served as the veterinarian for the university, which is great because hiring one would have killed us. And that's worked out really well as we've gone forward. And he's instrumental in the Smart Holstein Laboratory. And if you don't know what that is, we have the brightest cows in America out on the farm at this point. We take data from them through data loggers and all types of things to measure productivity and to see how food changes productivity in their milk and those types of things. And he was instrumental in bringing that to here due to his partnerships. The second person is Dr. Darwin Dahl. Dr. Dahl joined us in 1987 and served for 36 years at WKU, which is amazing to me. He has been incredibly active in research. He had 10 graduate students complete their master's thesis. He has over 20 peer-reviewed publications, and those publications in a large number of cases have students associated with them, which is important. And additionally, he has 5 NSF grants where he was the principal or co-principal investigator. And a lot of those were grants that brought instrumentation that was dearly needed for both teaching and research to the chemistry department. And from 2008 to 2010, he served as director of the Advanced Materials. So both had great careers here.
All right. Shane, any comments?
No, sir. I'll just make a motion to approve.
I second that emotion. Well deserved.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any further questions, comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay. Motion passes, and that concludes all of our action items. Provost Fisher, I think, has a brief presentation on a little update on our academic affairs, as somewhat outlined in President Caboni's recent annual review. So, Provost Fisher, I will ask you to give your presentation, please.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be in front of the board today. I want to talk about academic affairs, and I think I really want to talk about our goals and initiatives that we have going so that everybody on this campus, I've spent the last year telling everybody this, and now I'm here doing this. But before I do that, I have to say one thing. None of this could have been done without ESE or the SOF or the faculty or the deans and everything.
What is all that? It's word salad. Letters.
So what I need, everybody on campus has to be a part together. If we don't work together, we can't get things done. And what you'll see is there's a ton of stuff, and I guess I hit the thing, but all of it has been done with the people in this room and the faculty. And I will point out that the faculty has played a huge role in making us successful as we move our way down through some of these. And I wouldn't be right if I didn't say my office, which works as hard, and the people who work in that office are absolutely amazing. And I couldn't have asked for a better group as I walked in the door to be able to be successful as we work here. So having said that, we developed goals. We developed goals in the first year I was here. So we spent 8 months listening to faculty, staff, students tell us what was the culture of WKU, how things got done at WKU, and what needed to be done at WKU. That, along with the stack that was on my desk when I walked in that hadn't been done, was kind of where we were as we were starting off and doing this. So what you will see are the goals were developed after we had collected input for 8 months to 10 months. And then we went back, looked at what we've been told, and then chose these 7 goals to work with. These 7 goals hook directly to the strategic plan. So there's a combination that goes back and forth that helps us move the 10-year strategic plan forward. So having said that, the first goal, which is to increase recruitment, retention, degree completion, and placement of students. So we've already talked about that somewhat today. I want to come back to that and show you some examples of that. And what I always tell everybody I show these to, that should be in 96 font. Because when we came in and we looked at what people told us, that was the one that constantly was talked about. That is, we had to get a handle on those and to be able to move this institution forward. So I'll come back to that. Number 2 has to do, and I think is as important as number 1, which is to maintain outstanding faculty and give them the opportunity to get professional development. Without faculty, this institution doesn't run. Without outstanding faculty, we can't do the things we've done over the last 3 years. So I think that's an important one. And some of the things we've done a faculty compensation model that we finished when we came in, we increased part-time compensation. We new faculty orientation. We will have a new coordinator compensation guidelines as we move forward, and we've expanded faculty development. CITL, when I first got here, was really about teaching only, and now it's expanded to leadership in some other areas that allow faculty to grow in multitudes of different ways. Number 3 says to promote and improve academics. I'm going to come back to that one too, because that's an important one. But we've done a lot. We're in the middle of Colonnade, and we're in the middle of some interesting discussions about what Colonnade should look like and how we move forward. We do an academic program review. So when I got here, I was told by CPE that we would do it. They would give us what the academic program review would look like into the future that they wanted. So I'm in year 3, and I still am waiting for that. So we decided we would build our own academic program review for every group. And we externally review every program on this campus in a 5 to 7 year period. Just like you would do if you were under accreditation. So we can get an idea of how to be better, how to move it to a more modern curriculum and a more modern program. Additionally, we do an annual program sustainability process to tell us whether you're growing or declining, to tell us whether you need more faculty or not, to tell us if you're not graduating people. And then what we do is we bring you in and we ask you to come up with a 2-year plan to try to move forward. You get every chance there is in the world to be able to move forward. In addition, we launched a micro-credential platform, and we now do micro-credentials, especially out of the business school, who's doing a great job at that as we speak. We now have expanded dual credit. It's crazy. And we have students who want to be here. And the best part about it is the students are now coming on campus. I think the best experience we can give them is to be on campus in our classrooms. And the best part about that is I hope we get them comfortable here and we recruit them to here. So that's what we've been doing with Warren County, and that will expand. And there's people in this room who have been key to that. And reinvestment in online opportunities. We have just kicked off some new online opportunities, and we will continue to expand it over time. So that's 3. If you look at 4 is DEI. This institution has been built on DEI. It's had a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion that make people feel like they belong on this campus. And we have continued to do that with one WKU programming expansion. We do it with inclusive teaching. We do it with books, book discussions, media groups. Yesterday was a luncheon to have a discussion, and there's 2 more this time period. And we now are a partner institution in the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. We put in an application. We were accepted to be part of that. And now we have an opportunity for our Hispanic students to get some needed information and goals and help as we move forward. In addition, we promote and enhance research and creative scholarship. And just like we heard in the convocation, I was told right before we were going to increase research, and then I was told it was 2 times increasing research as he talked, and I got worried as the president talked. But I think we can do that, and there's some really interesting things. All of the grant programs were put back into play for faculty and with extra money so that we could get more faculty the opportunity to start their research, to kickstart it, to get it to doing grants outside of here. We also have professional development now where you can get grant writing help. Additionally, we have new grant, the Transdisciplinary Opportunity Program, or TOP. If you don't know what that is, it's an opportunity to get $50,000 for 2 years if you are a group that's made up of across silos or across colleges with a neat idea that can grow on WKU's campus. I put it out. We got 7 applications. I had a group that evaluated them. 4 came out of that. And next Wednesday, they have to do a TED Talk to try to convince people for the money. And it's open to the public from 3:30 to 5 next Wednesday. So they're all getting ready to go out and give us that at this point. At that point, the committee will get back together, ask for some more information about the proposals they're interested in, and we will allow them to move forward as we speak. So what we're hoping to do is kind of leave a college and go across that interdisciplinary realm. And lastly, we have innovative teaching grants and teaching development grants. And then number 6 is my favorite, is to build a better resourced and more highly functioning division. So when I came in, I signed 900 pieces of paper a day, which was just crazy. I mean, if anybody was getting paid, I was signing the piece of paper, which I thought that went out 25 years ago, but I was mistaken. And we didn't have a budget model. The budget model that was here, I don't know what it was, and I will never say I will know what it was, but RAMP was at that point where a group of us spent huge amounts of time, the deans and everybody, putting it in. And it's been really good to this point. And along with that, what we've done is started to put in electronic efficiency. Things like Slate, which is what's used to try to get students to come here. That's a CRM model that allows us to push things out to students. We do it both in undergrad and we're about to do it in grad. We did FLAC, which is how we pay people. So now it's all done electronically, which is great. We've gone to Anthology, which helps us do, in some cases, portfolios, and we've gone to Course Leaf, which allows us to do curriculum. So we've added all of those kinds of things to create efficiencies on this campus and to make things easier to approve and move forward to the next groups. And then my favorite, the last one is SACS, which is reaccreditation. I can't wait till 2025. The minute 2025 comes and that's put in, I'm on vacation. How's that? SACS is great. I appreciate that they want to know everything that they want to know, but it takes 4 years to get there. And we've been working on it since the day I walked on campus, which is 2021. And that's crazy to me that I've been working since 2021 to get ready to have a SACS reaffirmation and a QEP. But we will be ready. We are on time. We are on schedule. Beth Lavis has done an amazing job for us at this point, and everything is going fine as we see it. And there's still more to do. And then I want to come back to student success, which I think is at the heart of what we are and what makes us different. When you look at this institution, we're not a number, they know who you are. And one of the things is that we service a group of students here who will get one chance to be successful in a large number of cases. And that one chance of being successful may hinge on whether or not we can help them when they hit that inflection point of needing some help. And we have to be there to be able to do that. And if you do that, they'll graduate and you will have changed their lives and their families' lives. And that's a really important thing. I think it's a passion. It's not just a career. So when I think of this, this is why it was in 92 funds. And when you look at it, the two biggest, I think, that are out there right now, initiatives that are going on are the living learning communities, which are associated with the first year village. And I think that's made a huge difference in who we are and what we do. And the other one being first gen student initiative that's going on across campus with about 500 to 600 students in it. In both cases, these could never have been done without everybody on this campus working together. Back to where I started. None of these could be done in individual silos or individual offices. They've all been done. They have to be done together. So having said that, I just want to show a few things. If you talk about living learning communities, the question always is students want to come to these? I've been on a bunch of campuses and students usually ignore them or go, I don't want to be a part of it. Here, we're in the exact opposite. And I'm not so sure I'm always happy about that because I'm always trying to find more room and more ways to do more students, but it's gone up 24% since we put it in. We now have 1,265 students wanted in this last year. We are servicing over 1,000 right now, which is over a third of all incoming freshmen are in an LLC. Why is that important? Well, here's why it's important. If you're in an LLC, your retention rate is 11% higher. If you're one of these groups, like a URM or underrepresented minority, your retention rate is 16% higher or 16 points higher. If you're a first gen, it's 19, and if you're low income, it's 17. And one of the hardest things to take care of on a college campus is to close those gaps for those groups. And one of the reasons we've been able to close those gaps is that this LLC, run by faculty and Siddle and Crystal and Marco and all the people that are associated with it, have figured out how to engage these freshman students both in the classroom, both academically and socially. And these guys are true groups, and it's the faculty who has done this. Tons of credit to the faculty that work in these areas. They have been outstanding, and they have found their niche, as they say. And it's gotta be a love to go do this, and they have done an amazing job, but it's changed who we are. The other one, the first gen. So I came on campus and asked the question were we doing anything for first gen? And they had talked about it, but nothing was going on. To me, that's an important one for me. I'm a first gen, right? I'm that kid who got that one chance and luckily stands here. I think there's a lot of the deans are those kids. So we have a vested interest in that. And what we've done is built a program that I think takes care of the first gen for the first couple of years. And we are still expanding, but it goes all the way from high school. So we're bringing high schoolers on who are first gen to talk to them about college, show them what college is for a week, and then say, hey, you can be here and you can be successful, all the way to alumni mentoring programs. So lots of good stuff going on, continually working, trying to build communities where people find their belonging and can be successful. So that's those. And then I want to say that's not all of it, right? We have a Gates Foundation grant where we're looking at student success, equity, and intense. It's a terrible name. Basically what it does is Gates missed the name. What can I tell you? And all of that is what they basically did was they wanted to know what were the #1 issues on your campus that if you changed, you could increase retention. And there's a whole list that they go through, and then they evaluate your campus, and then they come onto your campus and have a conversation with you about how can we take these two and ultimately what can you do to improve it? And we're right at that stage. They've identified for us what it is. I will say one was advising, and the second one, I don't even remember the second one because advising went to the top of the list right away. And they're due in here, I think, in the next couple of months to have a longer conversation with us. AASCU, which is the American Association of State Colleges and Universities. We have a grant with them to look at how the schedule we put together in Astra and how we schedule classes and when we schedule classes affects students. And is it the right kind of schedule so that students have an opportunity to take the classes when they need those classes to be successful? So we're in the middle of that as we speak. We've done transfer student success with a CPE grant, and we've done the Inclusive Teaching Academy. So lots going on. And I want to finish with this. I think if you start to talk about recruitment, retention, and degree completion, the reason you heard those numbers today is because students, when you talk to them, want to know a couple of things. It's pretty easy. One is they want to know that there's wraparound services to help them when they need their help. And if you look at this institution, we've done an incredibly good job at creating wraparound services that will allow students to be successful. So they see that, so that excites them, right? 2 is money. I'm not going to kid anybody, right? Students are looking at scholarships, looking at what the cost is. Can I get out without lots of loans, or what can is it cheaper to be here or not? So scholarships have played a huge role. But the third thing they constantly look at is academic or curricular quality. They want to know that the program they're going to, in a large number of cases, is a cutting edge program that will allow them to leave here and either go to graduate school or go to a career right away. And it's up to us as academic affairs to make sure that departments and colleges are constantly looking at their curriculum to update it, modernize it, and do those kinds of things so that we can be successful into the future. And I have spent, I've now been in, I think, 19 departments this semester with this story, asking them and challenging them to think about how do you improve or how do you constantly look at your curriculum to make sure it's modern, to make sure that it's what students are looking for, and asking them to think 5 and 10 years out about what that program will look like in the future. And with that, I'm going to stop there. And that gives you some of the stuff that we're doing in academic affairs. And I'll take any questions.
Yeah, what a great presentation, and love your enthusiasm, Provost Fisher. It's a great overview, and I think gives all the regents a renewed vision of what we're about and how important, of course, the academic piece of all this is. Students may be the heartbeat of the university, but faculty are the brains, and got to have staff to support them, David. But that's what we're about. Comments, questions?
Just want to thank Provost Fisher for that presentation. I thought it was outstanding, and I appreciate all that good information you did. An outstanding job of giving us a real good background and summary of what's going on.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
I think it certainly speaks to the statistics you opened the meeting with, Mr. Chairman, and again, we're countering trends in that, and I hope that parlays into us being able to do more for students, faculty, and staff as we grow. It's a good story that we need to continue and expand on. All right, if there are no other comments or discussion, Provost Fisher, did you have anything else for our committee today?
To go along with what we've been doing over a long period of time, which is to bring faculty in to talk about their research in a quick manner. I love that. As today we have the honor of having Dr. Austin Griffith here, who's the Director of Life Skills Center for Child Welfare and Education and Research, and Associate Professor in the Department of Social Work here. And he has a long bio that you have that I supplied you guys with, but I'm going to say today that the majority of his research is focused on improving the lives of professionals who work with vulnerable populations by enhancing their health, wellness, and work-life balance. And he's here to show us that today.
Hey, everybody, appreciate this. So what we're gonna do today, we're just gonna walk through this. It's really an honor to be here. Just really thankful for this, no doubt. My name's Austin Griffiths, graduated WKU twice. I think the best way to go into this, we're just gonna, just for a couple of minutes, I wanna tell this kind of like a story. First of all, I wanna say thanks so much, certainly for all the support that I get and that we get. And I certainly wanna just tell you all about this Child Welfare Center that we have here at WKU. This is something that we're working really hard. We've got a lot of projects that are making a real difference in this community and elsewhere. If you don't know about it, so with that being said, I'm going to start with a couple of slides that it's not about me, it's never about me, but I kind of want you to just know a few things. So the essence of creating this Child Welfare Center, if you see here, I've certainly got a few slides that we're going to go through, but I think it's kind of relevant that I worked in child welfare for a number of years. There's a lot of wonderful people that work in child welfare here and elsewhere. There's a lot of needs. There's a lot of needs being met by people that work really, really hard in public and private child welfare. So child welfare, as we say, belongs to all of us. There are people that work with and in the child welfare system. So with that being said, it's a picture of me with Judge Reed in Hart County, something that really matters a lot to me. But when I worked for the state government, I had an opportunity in 2009 to apply for what's called the MSW stipend program, which is federal financial support to get into the MSW program here at WKU. Great news, I became a social worker and I got my MSW at Western Kentucky University. So I already had a degree in sociology from WKU. And then I got financial support from the federal government through the MSW stipend program to get my MSW at Western Kentucky University. So I'm really excited about that and degree this year. Basically, when I got my MSW at Western Kentucky University, excellent support, excellent training, thinking about how I could make this difference. I'm getting my MSW, I'm thinking about what can we possibly do, just kind of driven to kind of make this difference. So it's really about here, how can we help to change and improve this system that helped me to change my, or that helped me to define my professional purpose. I applied to the University of Kentucky's PhD program. So with that being said, I like to put this up here because this really hasn't changed. y'all can read this, but the reason I applied to the PhD program in social work at the University of Kentucky, because I wanted to implement change for the child welfare system, for the child welfare worker. I'm devoted to giving the child welfare worker a voice through the implementation of research and advocacy. So it's really that simple. Hasn't changed. And I think there's something to be said for me and others that are just really driven for that mission. So I just like to put that up there. I like to share that at times. But moving forward as we go through this, if this will click or not. Okay. There it is. There it is. So we created a research center here. So there's some good pictures as we kind of move this chronology. I think sometimes these visual illustrations are good kind of for an audience. We now are located here at the, what some call the dock house, but we call it the child welfare cottage. Right? It's a cottage, but nonetheless, we've created a research center here at Western Kentucky University. There has been a lot of interest. We are building an alliance. This is something very exciting. We have a lot of passionate members at this university, in other countries, at other universities. There's a lot I could talk about, but today I'm just going to get to the point. So with all that said, we have built an alliance. Certainly, we've been around for 4 years. Our mission is supporting the development of child welfare professionals, as Provo said, really to serve Kentucky's children and families. But we certainly believe, and this isn't just saying it, we can do more together. Something else I want to mention, really excited, Life Skills has partnered with us. They are all in. As you've heard, we are the Life Skills Center for Child Welfare Education and Research. Here's just a quick graphic that you can see, and most of y'all know about Life Skills. They provide premium healthcare services. So the great thing is Life Skills says, we provide services across the lifespan. How can we partner with you to help you to build capacity to deliver services? Excellent. So thankful for that. So there are a number of projects we're involved, whether we're evaluating their services, driving cutting edge research, using biometric technology. We're going to go through a couple of those just real quick here in a second, but very, very thankful for that and that 5-year commitment so far. Last slide before we hit some of these projects that we have that are current. Really, this is the culture that we've built. As you can read, service collaboration. One of the things I want to stress is that it's really incredibly and entirely interdisciplinary. So we got folks from around campus. I've studied up a little bit, interdisciplinary, different professionals, diverse backgrounds, certainly all about DEI, but there is a return on investment. I think that's very, very evident because all the projects I'm going to show, short of one, these individuals from different agencies have contributed money because they want to invest in our services. That's a real thing. So it's really something that we're really humble and very passionate about. We take a very great responsibility in having a return on investment for these services. So with that said, let's go through a couple of these. Definitely not going to take the time to explain all that. I'm sorry that these are probably small words, so it might be hard to read. But what I will say is each of these are on our website. At the top, you're going to see the logos from the partnering agencies. All of these are current projects. There's a lot of them. That's exciting. So with that said, we have this project here. It's called the Child Welfare Analytics Collaborative. This is a partnership with the state government where we've just hired 4 individuals where we are using databases to be proactive as far as analytics with tracking trends and being in front of child welfare as far as services and other things when it comes to the state government and all the things that they do with a number of different services. But here at Western Kentucky University, I could probably talk about that for 2 hours, but this is a really huge platform, and all these projects include students as well. This wellness initiative, which includes life skills in the state of Kentucky as well, includes biometric technology. So this is a focus on child welfare workers. We were able to secure some devices from Finland where people wear them on their person, and it tracks physiological data. I've got a team of nurse practitioners from here at WKU. They're wonderful. And we were able to collect a lot of really neat physiological data that's making a real big international difference because child welfare workers face a lot of stress, burnout, a lot of physiological things. So I lived it, I know it, and a lot of other people have. So this is just a really great project that's making a difference too. This is great. This is a partnership between 3 different applied research centers here in our college. So you've got our center, also the Center for Environmental and Workforce Health, and the Institute for Rural Health. So this is a great interdisciplinary partnership that's talking about using photo voice to help connect students and community professionals. So this is really about burnout and coping resources for helping students. This is something that's going to take shape over November. It's really exciting, and you can see the participants here. Moving along, another study, we work with the state government because foster parents are critical. Foster parents need information and knowledge, and we launched a state study partnering with the state government to launch a survey throughout private and public foster parents, and we were able to compare and contrast, not only soliciting information for feedback about what we can do better, but to look across the state about information for foster parents. So that's kind of the essence of this study, another partnership with the state government. Pretty exciting. Another one that's kind of under our workforce tab, we're partnering with individuals overseas, which is something that we're very excited about, which is looking about coping responses. Again, the physiological and certainly psychological impact of doing this work is something we need to be on the cutting edge of and advocating for, because it's a difficult job. It's a very meaningful job when you're in child welfare. So a few more slides we'll get to. Our center is providing services. So as it says on the left, evaluation and analysis, Lift Learning has a excellent curriculum for foster youth who are aging out. Everything from life skills to financial to budgeting. It's something that's adopted in many areas across the country. So they reached out to us with our capacity and said, can you help us to evaluate that? We said, absolutely. So we partner with Lift Learning. You can see the individuals, very interdisciplinary, Dr. Red for other people on here. So this is a partnership. We're providing services with individuals. And this is primarily under evaluation, but again, improving the lives of families and children as it pertains to the work that we do. This year, the Kentucky Judicial Commission had a large mental health summit. So we're not working on stigmatizing mental health. We're working on how can we better work. Maybe some of y'all went, maybe there's over 1,000 people that went. This was at the Galt House in May. They reached out to us and asked us if we could evaluate the entire summit. It was an excellent opportunity. These are individuals that were a part of our team to evaluate. I was working on the final report this morning. So again, providing evaluation services, very interdisciplinary, but working with the community in an interdisciplinary act around behavioral health to shape perception so we can better work with professionals in this space. Couple more. The crisis unit here, life skills, very, very important. I know from a former child welfare worker, individuals sometimes go through significant crises. Clearly, we need to be proactive and do things the right way. So they reached out to us and asked if we could reach out to the community members and do make a reach into some type of data analysis, some survey, and communicate with individuals in the community to find out some feedback about what we could do better. And so this is just another example of a project that we have done with them under the evaluation component. One more. The Pennyroyal Center is part of Life Skills. You know that? And they have a large SAMHSA grant, $4.8 million, and they're providing a lot of new innovative services, and they've reached out to us. Dr. Murphy and I have been helping to evaluate their services. This is just another one, but the great thing more than the evaluation is they're providing mental health, behavioral health services to rural individuals. All of these projects that I'm just breezing through have a story, a commitment. There are real outcomes on behalf of vulnerable families and children. That's the takeaway. And I'm talking fast, respectfully. But there is a real outcome that we are measuring on behalf of how this is helping people's lives. I'm throwing a lot in here. I want to stop before I kind of just glazed over that. Let me go through a couple more. Dr. Guama, Dr. Green, and myself, maybe you've heard about this. We have created an innovative virtual reality product, as you can see here, that's focused on assisting child welfare workers to deal with and recognize their awareness on behalf of implicit bias. This is something else that's very important. It's very difficult to make assessments in real time when you're working in child welfare. So diversity, equity, and inclusion are always a hallmark of the center. Also, this is one that's also taking shape and launching right now. Child welfare workers, especially in this area, we have wonderful, robust refugee and immigrant populations here in this Bowling Green area. They have asked for appropriate training and curriculum and education when they're working with new populations. What we did is we reached out to the Children's Justice Act, and we've been funded twice now to develop a curriculum. Now we're going to deliver it. How to better train child welfare workers to engage and professionally respond and work with child welfare workers who are going to be working with refugee and immigrant populations here in this area. So this is just another project that we're doing right now. We've worked on another project, I think I got 2 or 3 more, with Dr. Cassidy Kavins over at Murray State, helping service providers at SBRCs and child advocacy centers about how they shifted to telehealth after COVID-19. That's been very fruitful. And this has helped individuals to better understand moving from a more face-to-face tradition. We all know how COVID has kind of reshaped kind of interaction. Of course, we're on Zoom and stuff today, but we're talking about SBRCs and child advocacy centers where there's very sensitive, timely stuff that's happening when you're in a therapeutic realm and individuals are facing these types of challenges. And the last one, working with parents and children at the same time, collaborating with the Child Welfare Advocacy Center. This is the previous one, but a lot of intense stuff is happening. When I worked in child welfare, we would always focus on the child, but it was not enough when there was a mom or a dad in the house who was really looking for services. And we need to make a proactive, preventative effort to make sure that the parent also has access to evidence-based, real services in a consistent way so that family is whole and that family can move forward. So it's the child and the parent. That's really what this is getting at. There's a lot of really good stuff. I can't wait to talk about this project, but probably not this second. Last slide here, child welfare certainly belongs to all of us. Really excited about the things that we're doing. We've also created a Colonnade course called CHHS 100. I think y'all been excited to hear this. It's called Introduction to Child Welfare. It's incredibly interdisciplinary. It's growing about twofold every time. We've just opened 2 courses for the spring. Excited because students, and we are starting to measure this. We're going to put through an IRB for a survey about what they're learning and how their vision is kind of shaping about what they want to do with this knowledge to help improve their community. This isn't for only people that will work in child welfare like I did. It's about better understanding how the child welfare system works. So whether they're a nurse or an attorney or anything else, they can be excited about, now I understand how the child welfare system works and what can I do to be a proactive contributor to make things better. So I think that's it. And I appreciate your time, Mr. Griffith. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Griffith, for an excellent presentation. Regent Dennison, I'm going to let you comment.
Definitely in my lane.
Yeah.
Being a pediatrician here, so I think I need to take CHHS 100 Introduction to Child Welfare.
Do it.
I probably do that, as all pediatricians need to, but I'd love to have lunch with you. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and what I see could be very valuable to you, and I'm sure what you can tell me would be valuable to you. So, I would just love for you to get local pediatricians involved with the child welfare system, as well as some good things that come out of it too. So, yeah, you spoke to my heart for sure.
I'm excited to hear that. And I haven't met you, but I've heard a lot about you for years. I worked in Glasgow and CPS work is always good stuff. So nice to meet you.
I take care of tons.
I know that. I know people that work with you that I have a lot of faith in too. So.
And there's so much that needs to be done to improve it. And anything you do to make it better is what we need to do.
Gotcha. And I think that those slides are a reflection. We're talking about all of those. We're really maxed out at capacity, but the good thing is all of those slides reflect many agencies and partnerships that are coming to us and saying, help, and we're delivering. And it matters because WKU is right there doing the things that we need to do. So this is really exciting stuff.
Regent,
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Philip, I've got one. Regent Brink, Dr. Griffiths, I want to thank you for this presentation and just say as a former ward of the state, Kentucky, and as somebody that has served on the foster care review board, has also been a foster parent, and as a result, an adoptive parent. Someone that's married to a family law attorney who has been recognized for guardian ad litem work. I cannot stress the importance of the work. Having sat in those capacities, certainly I want to echo everything Dr. Dennison has said, but I think that this is something that often goes overlooked and underfunded by the Commonwealth. And I will say that I think the work that you are all doing is admirable. I think that as a colonnade opportunity, everyone should take CHHS 100, because if there's something that impacts our community at a family level, even, I think it's an opportunity for people to understand just how many people are involved and interact with the system. It's also on the successful implementation of many of those aspects leads to many first generation students. And many of those students come here. So when you look from beginning to end, it is an absolutely long-term, lifelong process. And I want to say that I applaud every piece of work that you all do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Any other comments or questions for Dr. Griffith?
I'd just like to ask, so young you wanted to set out and make a positive impact on this field. What are we doing to help you do that? What can we do better to help you do that? WKU.
I think that, great question. Being receptive to setting up our infrastructure to where we can quickly respond and be efficient, because full disclosure, we have people reaching out to us and asking us to deliver probably faster, because I have a really high expectation of quality of my work, as I do on behalf of this university that I care so much about. But it's to the point where we're really reaching a level to where it is crystal clear that people are thrilled, and we have the proof of concept is there, so to speak. The alliance is there, and we're strong. So helping to, on behalf of the logistical mechanisms, having incredible support from President Provost, from the Boston, but moving forward with kind of capacity building and infrastructure as far as some of that would free us up to move the needle in incredible ways that are measurable and make a monumental difference in the community. And I have a million examples. I'm ready.
I noticed the provost is taking notes.
This is exciting, and I'm so thrilled with all the support we have had, and so thankful for your comments, because we're a step at a time, and we're there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone?
Thank you, Dr. Griffiths, for an excellent presentation. I just want to add my thanks to all these others. And this is information we need, and you did a great job of presenting it to us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, as a final comment, I'll say it does take a person with uncommon bravery and commitment to be in this area. And as a university, part of our main reason for existence is inquiry and providing new knowledge that speaks to the common public good, and clearly you're meeting those goals that we have. So great presentation. Thank you for being here. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I think that concludes the academic committee agenda.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Bale. The next item on the agenda is Finance and Budget Committee reports. So I will turn it over to Chairman Gary Brody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our first action item today is the acceptance of the auditor's report and financial statements for the year ended June 30, 2023. I'll now turn it over to Susan to introduce our auditors.
Thank you, Regent Brody. So before I turn it over to our auditors, I just want to say this gives me the opportunity to first say it was another clean audit for the university, which does not just speak to the finance and accounting staff, but the whole university is involved in this. So a clean audit with no audit findings, no audit adjustments, and no past adjustments, which I'm sure Jennifer will address. It's a great audit, and so I want to say my thank you to the accounting and finance staff. So in particular, Ronaldo and Christy and Amy have worked really well with our auditors. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer. This is for business presentation. I do want to say I've worked with Jennifer a long time. back when they were BKD, and she was just recently promoted to partner. So congratulations to Jennifer. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate those comments and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today to go over the annual results. I don't know.
Keep going.
Keep going. Okay, thank you. Perfect, thank you. Well, again, appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. I have Sarah Sweat, the manager on the engagement with me here as well today. So appreciate that. I just have some high level comments to go over with you on the audit results as well as some high level financial statement review and our required communication to you today. So this was our second year, as Susan mentioned, working with Western Kentucky University. So we accomplished our audit plan and timeline, and we did meet the state deadline. So we set a lofty goal this second year, actually trying to be a week early. And so we did meet that goal. It takes some time to get the report prepared together and everything. So as Susan mentioned, I would like to thank the team here that they worked with Christy, Ronaldo, and Amy, and all of that group, because everybody has the information ready for us when we show up on site to prepare our audit procedures. Would also like to say, I appreciate Western Kentucky University because I have alumni that work on this engagement. So the team at Forbes also appreciates the success of the students here, because those accounting students work with us and help do the audit procedure. So again, a great group to work with, and we have a good communication throughout the process. As Susan mentioned, there were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control or any findings to report to you today. So we did issue an unmodified clean opinion on the financial statements, was what you expect and what you would expect to receive. We did have a new standard that was required adoption during the fiscal year, and that was GASB 96. This related to subscription-based arrangements similar to leases. And so that was a new item that had to be adopted this year. A few of the financial highlights here that I'll touch upon. I will say with the adoption of the standard, the statements are in a single year presentation due to those requirements of the standard and how you have to adopt that. Management does take a lot of time in preparing the management's discussion and analysis, which is at the very front of the report. So there's 125 pages of this report. It's a lot of information, but that management discussion and analysis really helps prepare some information to analyze from a comparison purposes, because that management discussion analysis will show you the 2022 activity compared to the 2023. So that is very helpful when you have a single year presentation. So some highlights here with the net tuition. As mentioned, from fiscal year 22 to 23, there was a slight decrease in enrollment, so impacting tuition revenue, net tuition revenue, about a 5% decline there, about 4.4 million. Net position is still very strong at 140 million. There was still an increase in total change in net position of 16 million. And then the state appropriations, where this is a significant source of non-operating revenue for the university. And so this was an increase of 7.3 million.
So when did you end your report? In 2023, but this is not fall 2023. June or?
It's June. So this is the final June 20, yes, the fiscal year. And so here is a summarized statement of net position. So you'll see here, I know, apologize, the numbers are probably small on the screen here. So cash and equivalents decreased about 29 million. Most of that was use of HERF money, grant money that was received, but also just a transition to investments, as you all adopted a new investment policy, and so moved some of those cash equivalents into those investments to earn some return during the year. So work through that process, and so there is a new financial statement line item to show those investments separately there. At the end of the year was about 44 million in the investments. You also have your assets held in trust, which stayed fairly comparable to the prior year. Those that are held at the foundation and held for the university. You'll see here there's a lease and subscription assets net. So you may recall last year there was a new standard that put basically all leases on your statement of net position. And then now there's a subscription asset. So think of your arrangements with IT and your software. And so basically you have a right to use a software and you have the obligation to pay for that use. So really not a big impact on the change in net position or income or expenses, if you will. It just represents this on your statement of net position to show those obligations. Then the capital assets, consistent with the prior year, somewhat of a change there. The GASB 96, I did note there was about a 2.8 million impact on the statement of net position. So total assets and deferred outflows of approximately 659 million there, increase of about 14 million from the prior year. The liability section there says the lease and subscription obligations that are owed, and then the notes payable. So that reflects the bond issuance that occurred in August of 22. So about 52 million went on the statement of financial position from that issuance that occurred right at the beginning of the fiscal year. Then the pension and OPEB liability increased about 15 million. That is really driven by the actuarial assumptions and those reports that are provided by the state. So that's just information that is provided, and that we look at the actuarial assumptions that those actuaries use, as well as the other auditors that perform that allocation report that shows what Western Kentucky University's portion is. So again, as mentioned, total net position about 140 million, so increase from about 16 million over the prior year there. Any questions on this net position and some of the highlights so far? Here gives some financial highlights on the statement of revenues and expenses. The federal and state grants, the decrease there of about 18 million, that is primarily driven by the HERF money. So as that money is now been depleted and utilized, we will start to see that trend back to the normal type of grant revenue numbers that you have seen. Again, total operating revenues stayed very comparable to the prior year. And then operating expenses were increased about 31 million from that. Various items driving that number, pension expenses and just cost, as everybody knows, the cost of everything has increased. So see that going up during the year. Here is just some financial statement footnote highlights. I won't point you to these in the report themselves, but note 3 does give you a detail of the investments and the fair value disclosure. So that is a new footnote this year to show the types of investments you all are invested in, and there it gives you a fair value disclosure, and that fair value disclosure just helps you show the risk level of your portfolio. So level 1 is more of your less risky investments up to your level 3, which is a harder to value investment. So just wanted to point you to that. That is a new footnote this year with the investment policy. Note 6 does give you the information for the subscription assets, so you can see the details on that. And then note 9 gives you the lease obligations, our prior capital leases, what we called it. So those give you some more of the details behind those numbers on those obligations. We all are required to do a single audit as well. And so that did get completed during the financial statement audit this year. There were no findings to report, and we did have 5 major programs to test. So we hopefully will see this start to decline again as the COVID money has been utilized. But we did test the Student Financial Assistance Cluster, the Education Stabilization Fund, or PERF, as I refer to, the Child Care and Development Fund Cluster, TRIO Cluster, and the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. So the government did tell us, they did say that the HERF and the coronavirus funds were high risk. So we were required to test those. They dictate those from a certain level, again, if you make a certain threshold, but the government does say that those are high risk programs. Any questions on the financial statements before I get into the audit communication letter? Okay, some high level items here. Again, we have our required communication to you all today. We did issue the unmodified opinion on the financial statements. The significant accounting policies are noted in footnote 1, and there were no unusual accounting or alternative accounting treatments that we noted during the audit process. Then I just noted there that there were assumptions that were made with the adoption of GASB 96. So we worked with management with those assumptions there. As mentioned, no alternative accounting treatments. The management's judgments and accounting estimates. So again, there are estimates that are inherent in the financial statements. And so we look at these and base our procedures based on those estimates and the risks that are associated with that. And so again, we look at the defined benefit pension plan and other assumptions that are used for the OPEB liability. We look at the allowance for uncollectible receivables. That is an estimate in the financial statements. Those valuation of investment securities, we utilize a third party to help us make sure the valuation of those securities appear reasonable. And then we look at the functional expense allocation in the footnote, and then the GASB 96 items, again, those assumptions made by management. So we had no findings or items to report on those matters, but we do pay particular attention to those during the audit process. Financial statement disclosures, I pointed you to some of the new ones, and then again, GASB 96 is the only one we noted in our letter. As Susan mentioned, we had no audit adjustments or no past adjustments. So very proud of that process with the team here to not have any adjustments in the audit, the financial statements that were provided to us to audit. And then just the quality of the accounting principles. So again, the new was adopting GASB 96, and any other communications that we had with WKU was the management representation letter. So that is signed by management as we wrap up the audit process. Any questions on that information?
Thank you so much. Susan, I would like to commend you and your staff for a job well done on the financial statements. If there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion and a second to accept the auditor's report and the financial statements for the year ended June 30, 2023.
So Regent brought it before doing a motion, just to ask a question, just to help us. Susan and her team meet with us quite often. One of the things that we try to get a handle on from the board perspective, and those of us on the finance and budget committee, is what things we can look at on the fly during the course of the year to get us perspective as we're progressing through of how we're doing financially, or things we should be concerned about, so we're not catching it at the end of the year, or whatever the case might be. So just to, for external opinion about this, what do you think should be some of those most important numbers and metrics that we should?
Good question. Your team does a great job at looking at information. Again, looking at enrollment and those numbers and the budget. I know you guys have a robust budget process to look at that. Again, the grant funding that is received, looking at those and the requirements that are, have to be followed with that grant funding. Again, you have a great team that looks at that information and knows the certain requirements that have to be followed. Internal control processes. I mean, that is always something to look at from that standpoint, because there's always room for improvement in that, in the process of any cash collections or different items like that. The Department of Ed, it continues to look at items from a student financial aid side. So staying on top of that, I know the team here looks at that. They had new steps that we had to look at. There was incentive comp procedures and some items with agreements. And so the Department of Ed is continuing looking at those agreements. So that would be an area that I would suggest, again, just staying on top of those standards that the Department of Ed issues. And then GASB, unfortunately, is not very calm right now. There are new standards. So there will be a couple other items that we have to discuss. But the finance team talks to us during the year, and that is very, very helpful. And so I think doing that, and so if there's any thoughts about just what can we do differently, or do we need to change some policies or procedures, or can you help us interpret this? With GASB 96, I was talking to the group in April and May. So that is very helpful when we kind of know the items that are going on at the university, because we're not here day to day. And so to have that communication with them is very helpful, because then we can help answer the questions on the front end. And so when they're building their analysis and reviews, we can help with some thoughts in the front end versus seeing it on the back end. So like when agreements get signed and we see them after the fact, sometimes we can provide some information on the front end from how the accounting will work if this is the agreement that's signed. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you.
Regent Spiller, my apologies. It's very difficult to see everybody and their questions when I'm on Zoom. Are there any further questions or comments before we go to a vote? If not, then I would entertain a motion and a second to accept the auditor's report and financial statements for the year ended June 30, 2023.
So moved.
That
Have a
was
second.
Regent Brinkley. That was Regent Brinkley. Regent Spiller was second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed by like sign. All right, thank you. Our next action item is to accept for filing the statement of revenues and expenditures for the 3 months ended September 30th, 2023 and 2022. Susan?
So, again, this is the first quarter budget for the actual for the new fiscal year. And, this is the total revenue. So you'll see that our, overall on total revenue is 39% compared to 38% in the prior year. So at this point, over prior year, we're about 3.5 million or 2.8% higher. I think most of that is reflected in your, if you look directly at your net tuition revenue, which is even more good news around our enrollments. So you'll see where our net tuition revenue has gone from 47% of total budget to 50%. So again, this is just, again, a little bit more on net tuition revenue. The fall tuition revenue as compared to budget exceeded the overall budget. And that was due to the increase in the freshman class and the overall enrollment. We fully expect for the spring to exceed budget as well because of the retention efforts on campus. And then going to the other revenue categories, state appropriation is, while we're at 30% of budget, is down slightly over prior year, and that has to do directly with a slight decline in performance funding for the university. Grants and contracts are higher primarily due to the federal Pell and CAP program, and then also the KIA Innovative Scholarship Pilot Program for refugees on campus. The other revenue category is higher primarily because of the new investment policy that we have in place and the banking contract, the new banking contract, signing bonus. And auxiliary is slightly lower, and that has to do with just some timing having to do with the Aramark contract. We will recognize that revenue in the second quarter. So that's all I have on revenue. Any questions on revenue from any of the committee members? This is what the total expenses for the university looks like in the first quarter. So the personnel section is trending as we would expect within budget. We're about 24% of budget in current fiscal year as compared to 23%. That's primarily due to the salary increase that we had in place and some other compensation adjustments. Other direct expenses, the other financial assistance category that's directly related to the revenue item that I talked about earlier, the increase in the Pell and CAP program and that KIA Innovative Scholarship Program. I can't overstate what Jennifer just talked about, the increase in the supply and operating expenses. From everything we can tell when we dig down deeper into the detail, most of that is just due to fixed cost increases and increased cost within the area of inflation. The good news of this part of the report is maintenance, utilities, and travel are down pretty significantly over prior year. I asked Ronaldo to check with Brian on the utilities to make sure that that wasn't a timing issue. But in fact, we are seeing a decline in utilities, which is excellent news given inflation, primarily because of favorable weather conditions. But we will continue, as I told the board when we presented the budget, is monitor the inflationary increases throughout the year. That's all I have on the first quarter budget. Any questions?
So I'm thinking on the inflation, and I know you presented last year's budget to us. You talked about setting up separate index numbers to track inflation, and you did that, you reported to us. And so, and now, and we know what the inflationary impact was last year. And now we're trying to reconcile that in the budget. How are we going to handle that? We see inflationary impacts this year, and how that's going to impact us over the course of the year. Are we going to be increasing the budget finally in those areas next year? Because we don't have deflation. We keep tracking it, eventually we've got to just make it part of what we're doing, what the budget is.
Well, I mean, some of it, Shane, we're just now getting into the new development of the 25 budget. So we'll have to see what we do going forward and recommendations come out of the budget executive committee. We're hopeful through the new legislative process that the president might want to speak to this some, is that our discussions with the CPE right now includes a request into the legislative session for inflationary dollars that would go directly into the base. So rather than all of our money going into performance funding, which is one time in nature, not permanent, we would actually get an influx of permanent dollars into our budget to address some of the inflationary issues.
Yeah, I've talked about this on a few occasions publicly. We're not in the session yet, but it's important to recall, and I'll begin with, I'm thankful for what the legislature did in the last session, last budget session, where we had an increase in dollars in performance funding. We had dollars given to us for asset preservation and a capital investment of $75 million for the College of Business building. All that's wonderful, but none of it can help with inflation. The state legislature gave increases to K-12 education, to state employees. We were not included in that. And so during the past 6 months, Jennifer Smith and I have had robust conversations with our regional delegation, South Central Kentucky, but also others in leadership around how might we mitigate some of the inflationary challenges that we're facing as universities. It's not just WKU, but it's all the state institutions, but it's also a national conversation. So as we developed our legislative agenda for the session, the CPE and the university presidents together have put together a request around increase to base, which we have not had in a very long time. And I walked through this yesterday with colleagues at Faculty Senate. The challenge around salary increases and the challenge around increasing budget is that because the state is only invested in performance funding, which are one-time dollars, we don't have the ability to use those for salary increases. CPE has constrained our ability to increase tuition to what's been, since I've been here, less than 2% per year, averaging about 1.5, 1.7%. That's the only revenue increase other than increases from enrollment that you can apply to salary increases because they're permanent dollars and also permanent expenses. And so I'm hopeful that we'll get some relief from the legislature and positive conversations. I think they understand the issue because they feel inflation personally when they go to the grocery store. And so it makes sense for them. But we're not going to have base increases for multiple years in a row. We're asking for year 1 and year 2 in the budget cycle, and then we'll see where we are. If we were able to get that, that creates an opportunity for us to mitigate some of the expense challenges around inflationary pressures on facilities, maintenance, stuff. But also would give us a chance to do some significant adjustment work on faculty and staff salaries. So it's a really positive opportunity. I promise nothing in the next legislative session. We'll see how it, all that matters is how it ends.
Are there any other questions or comments before we put this to a vote? If not, I would entertain a motion and a second to accept for filing the statement of revenues and expenditures for the 3 months ended September 30th, 2023 and 2022.
West is trying to move.
Was lip reading count?
There's a problem with the audio. It's obvious that Regents fans is trying to make that motion. I read or lips well enough to know that. So you have a motion, Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? I'm sorry, it must be freezing up on my end. I can't hear anything.
I will second.
You have a
Okay.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Our third item is to approve a revision to the 2023, 2024 operating budget. Susan?
Okay, this is the, we're actually getting this to you earlier than we have in the past. We typically, because of the audit process and all of that, we usually don't bring this to you until the December. So this will be good news, particularly for the academic units, that we can get these funds, estimate of these funds into their budget. So this is the carry forward from the previous fiscal year. Basically, carry forward is it's allocated based on the approved carry forward policy. And just so everyone understands, carry forward is not revenue. It's simply funds that are generated by revenue exceeding budget or underspending the expenditure budget. So keep in mind that these are one-time funds, and so they cannot be used to create permanent positions or make permanent personnel adjustments. These are one-time in nature. These are the dollars that we're requesting the Finance Committee to recommend, 18.2 million back to all. This is strictly on the academic side of the university. So for the course and program fees, F&A and state mandated programs, about 9.4 million. Revenue dependent departments, about 8.4, and the Fuse and RCAP grants and grad research grants about 472,000. So for a total of about 18.2 million. So Regent Brody, that's all I have. If there's,
Okay.
I'll entertain questions.
Okay, yes, questions or comments from anyone?
I have a question. I'm really trying to understand how all this falls, and I want to tell you all, I've worked on this for a week or so, and I'm trying to understand it. I just want to be sure before I make any kind of vote. When we talk about a revision to the budget, the operating budget, are we talking about a revision to the 389, 944 that the board approved? Okay, does that mean that then that budget comes plus 18, so it's 408, 187, 603 instead of 389?
Yes.
Okay. So just for clarity, if that's the budget, then do departments budget their underspend to the new budget or the old budget?
So what we're thinking about doing this year, David, I mean, that's a good question, is that because carry forward dollars are not revenue, we've talked about, is there a way, and they're one-time dollars. So we don't want the not that our academic deans are very smart, intelligent people, but for accounting purposes, is there a way for us to segregate those differently within our general ledger so they don't get commingled with the permanent dollars? And so that everybody can account for them differently. So these are one-time dollars. They may sit in a different part of the ledger than your permanent dollars so that they don't get commingled together. That could have been some of the confusion in the past. I don't know that, but Ronaldo, is that fair to say that we're still looking at ways that we can budget those within the ledger? Yes. Okay.
So I'll add to that. I think that's absolutely the right question. One of the challenges we've seen with that overspend from last year is in the previous 5 years, we had spent between 90 and 92% of actual revenue. Last year, we went over that. Making it clearer for budget managers and those who have budget responsibility that don't look at your total budget, look at your annual recurring budget And then to the side, here is a set of dollars you can use for one-time things, but you cannot use that as if it were part of the overall budget. So I think that's part of the learning process for RAMP and for the budget managers as well. So I think it's a great point.
And because you mentioned that, I have a follow-up. That brings the other question that I think is a logical question that I'm still struggling with when I think about these numbers. And I'm really trying. I want to stress that. If we say that the underspend over the last, I believe there was 6 years cited in some document that I read, is tied to the fact that carry forward was readily available. And people use that as part of what they would normally do over the course of business instead of the allocated regular budget. So in essence, you create an underspend by providing a robust amount of carry. For instance, this year there's an $18 million carry forward, or last year there was a $29 million carry forward. I'm not arguing one way or the other. I'm trying to understand if we have a $389 million budget that we've now augmented to 408, that is a good thing. How are we then asking budget? How are we then, or why are we asking units to underspend at a 90% level? And how does that qualify based on, that's my question is I just want to be, because there's been a lot put in print this week that causes me to be unclear, causes even our conversations earlier in the week to really, I want to be really sure because, you know, I'm just still trying to fish through this.
So for me, philosophically, and this goes to all the work that we've done as a university during the past 6 years and continue this year, not just on a new budget model, but how it is we've navigated the challenging budget of 18 that we created. I'm sorry, 19, 17, 18, all those difficult decisions. It is prudent and conservative for us to spend at 90 to 92% of actuals without the carry forward built in. And why is that so important? I've said, and I will say again, there is not a huge pot of money hidden somewhere. We have worked to increase days of cash on hand in such a way that our rating from our bond agencies and from our rating agencies does not go down. But when your days on hand decreases, which is what occurred last year when you overspend, you must replenish that. And so I'm inherently conservative in the way in which I think about how we spend money as an institution. It's one of the reasons our debt load has gone down. It's one of the reasons we've underspent budget. And so philosophically, not commingling those one-time dollars with revenue makes perfect sense to me. And it's just part of being disciplined and the maturation process as an organization. And I'm proud of where we've been, and I think we're going to continue that growth. Does it constrain flexibility? Yeah, until you get to the end of the year, and hopefully those dollars again get returned to you in a way that's meaningful. And if we can continue to grow, again, the revenue growth must come through enrollment growth.
Last follow-up, I
Yeah.
promise. If then, and you made the reference to this, that the board did vote the same way last year to return 29 million a year. That would augment the previous year's budget in the similar fashion as we do to augment this budget to 408 this year, right? Then there was no overspending. If you augment with carry forward, and we spent 400.6 million, not based on the original, 383.4. If we augment with the 29 million, there was no overspending. Or is that, because I'm trying to understand, I swear to you, I'm trying to understand this.
Well, because it gets pulled into.
Correct.
So as our president has been really good about this messaging across campus this week, and I guess last week was staff maybe. There was not an overspend as compared to budget. The overspend was actual revenues as compared to actual expenditures. That was the overspend. So that's why the message, which it can be talked about in many different ways, it's not a budget problem. It's not, we're not overspending a budget. It's looking at actual revenue and actual expenditure.
But the other thing too is actually that's and then the other thing that I want us all to think about, right? And again, this is, so we stop spending one-time dollars on recurring expenses, which is that's the cardinal sin of budget. You just don't do that. So we stop doing that. But then the next thing we stop doing is thinking about carry forward as recurring revenue. It isn't, it's not guaranteed. And so as we, again, mature in how we do this, making sure we don't spend to budget numbers, because that's one number that you see if you look at that in the system. You got to not look at that number. You got to look at the actual number, right? Because that allows you to be conservative in your spending. And then mature organizations never spend 100% of budget because that's not the number you use. They also don't spend 100% of actual because that's a disaster and doesn't give you any flexibility. So 90% of actual revenue spend as the way in which we manage ourselves creates a healthy, well-managed, fiscally sound organization. And it's what you want to see in the corporate world, but it's also what you want to see. It's one of the reasons that we are not having the same conversations that you're seeing in many other places across the country. And so it's because we've been so disciplined, not we leadership, we faculty, we staff, we budget, all of us in the Regents, essentially holding our feet to the fire to not overspend. And so it's good.
Anything else? Any further question or comment before we go to vote? If not, I'd entertain a motion and a second to approve the revision to the 23-24 operating budget.
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second from Regent West.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Okay. Action item 4. Approval of personnel actions. Susan?
So these are the standard personnel actions that we bring to the committees on a quarterly basis. So the full board will take action on in December. So these are your personnel actions from May 1st through August 31st, and one-time compensation payments from 5/1 through 8/31. So I can take any questions, or there's others in the room that may be able to answer some questions that others may have.
So I will start here and just say that as I think the committee may be aware, Regent Brinkley and I, whenever these come out, we take a lot of questions, comments from members of the campus, and that's how we spend our week is answering individual questions on this about individual people. We both have expressed over the years, it starts my 3rd year on the board, we both have expressed that we do not want to micromanage and get down in the weeds on these, if that is not the role as we dive on it. We understand the state law, that they must be reported, and it is part of our bylaws, but I this week was reviewing the bylaws and looking to see, and after read this out at Faculty Senate yesterday, that the board shall exercise authority over and control of appointments, qualifications, salaries, and compensation payable out of state treasury. My question to the full board is, in my 3 years here, we have we've gone over Todd Stewart's contract, we've gone over the contracts that come from athletics, usually an executive committee, and we spend a lot of time on those. And yet we don't look at other contracts. And I just wonder if we should, as a board, be looking at perhaps the leadership team, the top management team, those contracts. We don't want to get, I don't believe we want to, as a board, get down below perhaps your executive team, but the executive team, do we have a responsibility to be looking at those? And that's just a question for, again, what our authority is, and what we should be doing.
So I want to be clear, the executive team does not have contracts specifically. The only contracts we have at the university are athletics contracts and my contract. We have appointments, 4-year appointments that are renegotiated every 4 years. And so we do bring contracts to the board. We do not bring reappointments to the board. That's my team, my cabinet. And I would encourage you all not to get to the level of approving those. You don't like my cabinet or decisions I'm making, take that up with me. And we have had conversations around some of those reappointments, and we're going to continue to have those conversations. I am happy to do that. Getting to the place where you are approving reappointments of deans, vice presidents, general counsel, I think that shifts from a strategic conversation to a tactical conversation. And I would encourage the board not to get to that level of micromanagement. If you have those questions, I'm happy to talk to you all one-on-one, but that's a management decision. That is not a strategic decision from my perspective. The other thing I will say, and this is so important, compensation at this institution, I'm proud that we've gotten to 2% regular increases annually. Because when I showed up, I heard over and over again, we don't get regular salary increases. I said, that's wrong. And so we've gotten to a place where the expectation is that each year there'll be a 2% pull. So now the narrative is, well, 2% is not enough. And given the inflation pressures we have, that makes absolute sense. And I said to faculty senate, and I said to staff senate, that is correct. That is not enough. You heard me talk about the legislative work we have to do to get increases to base. That can help us with several things: inversion, compression, and merit. It can also help us with ensuring we're retaining staff and faculty. But the other thing that I want to say is that we have done some amazing work on the staff side. Regent Brinkley and his organization's prime example of it, remember from a couple of years ago, thinking differently about how we're deploying staff resources. To this date, using Shane's numbers that he did on it was a big napkin, but it was the back of a napkin. We have made adjustments, market adjustments to over 500 of our staff, not including athletics. You add to that in staff, you have a pretty high churn rate. So last year we added 250 new staff to WKU, a total of about 1,500, 1,600 staff. That means we have done market adjustments for almost 50% of our staff in the past 3 years. For our faculty, it's much more difficult. We do retention offers that were in a similar range as to what some of you may have seen in the leadership offers, ranging from 4% to 17% for a group of 17 to 20 faculty that we were in danger of losing. We wanted to retain that talent. I heard the comment last night. So the only way I can get a raise is by getting another offer. That is not atypical in higher education. And there are conversations that faculty will have with the department chairs and deans that they may or may not retain folks and make offers. Last thing, if you think about the reduction in force from 2018, the number of staff of the 182 positions that we eliminated, the number of staff was almost 90% of those positions, if I recall the number. The vast majority were staff who lost their jobs and had picked up extra workload. So the reorganization on that side was necessary. On the faculty side, you can't change a faculty member's job responsibility. It's teaching, research, and service. And we have a very strict process on how someone gets promoted from assistant to associate to full. And so as proud as I am, and we should praise and celebrate that we have been creative and nimble on the staff side and thinking differently about how we work and how we become more efficient and more creative. On the faculty side, it's just harder. It's just harder. And so the provost and I have had these conversations. Deans and the provost will continue to have these conversations. How do we think differently about how we deploy those scarce resources? scarce resources in a way that makes us more efficient. I think part of it is around instructional and research and service load. And I think those conversations will continue during the year. At the end of the day, we need to retain the talent that we have. We need to be competitive in the marketplace. And we've worked hard, not just on the side of salary, but on total benefits package. We were going to have an increase in health insurance this year. We have not since 2019. We've added 5 days, particularly for staff, on paid time off, right? We've had summer hours. We have remarkable workplace flexibility. We've done everything outside of salary. And so I appreciate the concern. It's the right question to ask. We're gonna get there. My president, colleagues, and I are going to do everything we can for the legislature. I think that if you look at percentages, I understand dollars are big numbers. The percentages, those are pretty typical.
So I appreciate the answer, and
That's a long answer to all the questions.
also just helping to frame this for the community at large as they hit me and say, well, you got to stop this. Well, okay, that's not the board, but yet it's reported. And it is part of our bylaws, but yet again, there's these levels. We continue to have that conversation. So we have a conversation with you, not necessarily making those changes here. So I appreciate that.
Can I follow up, Regent Brody? I have a question and a comment, and I want to stress that I agree in principle that if we have an $18 million discussion 5 minutes prior to a discussion over 120 or 130,000, one shouldn't be given equal weight. I think it's irresponsible for us to micromanage salaries. Also, to that point, I don't know the responsibility of, as a staff advocate here, as a fiduciary, the responsibility of spending so much time presenting athletic contracts. If we're not going to discuss contracts, and that's a function of especially contracts that have no salary increase at all, which we've seen athletic contracts presented in that fashion. I don't know why those come before the board. If there's a statutory requirement, that's something that should be revisited. If we're not going to have a robust discussion about any staff position other than president, which is the one really focused hiring practice that the board makes, I don't think we ought to have any at all. Now, along with that, I want to stress that, you know, Shane and I only know about Shane because we're in pretty constant communication. Sometimes I think that it's unhealthy. But we do review every page that we're given. And the reason the contract came up, that discussion came up, is that specifically tied to 4 of these positions in the justification and explanation, it does say new contract agreement in the language. So because of that, I want to stress this to everybody. Because it says there's a new contract agreement, I can't support this. I was going to support this, but unless we revise that, and I'll support it in December once it's revised, but it does say the explanation is new contract agreement. If there are no contracts, I don't know that we can even vote on it.
Yeah, it's imprecise language. We
Yeah.
can make, can we make the?
Or we
revision?
can make a revision now.
Make the
and I'll
revision now.
support it. But that is the explanation. That's where the contract language came up, and that's where we also thought, well, why are some contracts discussed and others are not? So I'm sure it was an accidental oversight.
Absolutely. And I did a question, not in your parliamentarian's role, Andrea Anderson, but as general counsel. Is there statutory requirement for contract approval by the board that's different from reappointment?
There's language, the statute specific to contracts, when it talks about quorum of the board, but it does not reference letters of appointment. I think the document that you're looking at is created by HR, and they have certain fields that they populate. That's why I think that's the distinction and why it says contract.
Yeah, that's a good catch, David, because we actually have talked about it, that we knew that the reappointments had to go to the board because they were not contracts. So
Yeah,
I apologize for that misstatement.
No, this prompted a line of discussion that that I had never seen and I had not been a part of in the last 5.5 years. So I think this healthy discussion, and is a good, it helps people understand that there are not in fact contracts on these positions. So there's nothing being hidden.
So can we make the correction now, or do we have to wait till December?
You can make a motion to revise that.
So would it be reappointment language? Okay, all right. I can. Okay. Chair Brady, do you mind if I make a motion with revised language?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't pick up what Andrew was saying, so please do. I do think it's good that it got out on the table and was clarified some, but please go ahead and make the motion.
To move a modification of the language before to restructure words related to 4 specific explanations for salary increases of greater than $5,000. The language currently for 4 individuals on that explanation page states that there are new contract agreements. In fact, those are reappointments. That is the new justification language that I'd like to insert as part of my motion. And in doing so, would also move the acceptance of these personnel actions for FB4.
We need to take them separately, please.
Okay. I want to move that we do everything that I just said with the exception of accept FB4.
I'll second that.
Are the people voting clear on the motion?
The motion, as I understand that I presented it, Chair Brady, is to modify language on 4 instances on the explanation page where it specifically words new contract agreement, to modify that to reappointment.
And you have a motion and a second.
Yes, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Now I understand there's another motion on particular salaries. Is that correct?
No, there's a move, there's a motion to move on, so moved on FB4.
Yes, on FB4, the personnel actions. So,
Yes.
all right, I'll accept a motion and a second there.
So moved.
Have a second.
Regent West.
Okay, thank you. I can't see her or hear. So, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. All right, moving on to the last action item in finance, the approval of revisions to the WKU internal audit charter. Turn it over to Bruce Wiseman.
I've got a proposal in your packet to revise the internal audit charter. I will tell you, we did this as a practice of preparing for our external quarterly review next summer. We took the existing charter and we compared it to the model charter of our professional standards, and we made some changes. I will tell you the substance of those changes were very minimal, but you'll see the document looks a little bit different than the existing one. So with that, I'll take questions if there are any.
Any questions or comments? If not, thank you, Bruce. I'd entertain a motion that the revisions to the WKU internal audit charter be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now for information items, the quarterly financial statements for the first quarter of fiscal year 24. Susan?
Yeah, just gonna, pull my slide deck back up, I believe. And okay. So let me just, go through this. So this is first ever quarterly financial statements for our university. They've never been produced in the past. And so, here we go. Just So, you'll see that there's only 1 year, presented in these quarterly financial statements, as the, auditing firm talked about. There's no comparative year. The reason there's no comparative data for this is because this is the first ever quarterly interim statement we have presented. We will have comparative data. So starting at this time next year, you will see 2 years side by side. This is information only. There's no action required. And just so everyone understands the components of the quarterly financial statement, you basically have a balance sheet or a statement of net position. And this is an accumulation of assets and liabilities over time, whereas your income statement is basically a snapshot at any point in time that represents 1 full quarter of your revenue and your expenses. They will always be, these interim quarterly statements will always be unaudited, since we only have the auditors on campus once a year to do a financial audit. And so I just want everyone to understand these are unaudited statements. This is really our attempt, working with Chair Roddy, on getting a more robust financial package for the board. You have your budget versus actual, which of course brought up a question that Regent Brinkley is that there wasn't an overspend then. So if you just look at budget versus actual, you don't have the actual to actual comparison. So your statements will help you do that more. We're also working with Chair Brody on some more graphics and net position and cash position that we can present quarterly to the, I think there will be a more robust, more informational than just a simple budget versus actual. So again, this is your first quarter, and this is a statement of net position, your balance sheet. So your since we don't have first quarter statements again from prior year, if you just look at how we ended the year, June of 23, and you look at the ending of the first quarter, our cash equivalents and investments have declined about $6.2 million. Some of that is due to outstanding tuition collections, because tuition collections are still going on after the end of the first quarter. So you'll see cash increase. Capital project spend that we will be getting reimbursed from the state. You see a decline there. And then just regular debt service payments that occur in the first quarter that's not reflected at the end of the year. Accounts receivable is higher. That goes along with what we were talking about, is that we're booking receivables for those outstanding tuition payments that we have not received. And then your long-term obligations have declined because we paid off those debt service payments. So that's just kind of a snapshot of your statement of net position. Again, next year when I present these, you'll have 2 years comparison, so there'll be more to work with because you can compare this quarter to the prior year. And this is, again, accountants, they like to give these long names. So statements of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position, which in most people, that's just an income statement. And so these are your revenues. Operating revenues we've collected in the first quarter, 57 million. And that includes most of the fall tuition revenue and a portion of the summer. Operating expenses of about 100 million. Non-operating revenues, that's primarily your state appropriation and your grants and contracts through September of about 54.5 million. Increase in net position at this point is again positive of about 11.4 million. Now, and we've had a long conversation with Chair Brody about this, about the pension and OPEB assumptions. That is a number that we get from the state based on actuarial work that they do at the state from the pension board once a year. Some state institutions that are in the pension system do a 5-year rolling average, do an average, and put an adjustment in their quarter. And like I said, Chair Brody and I have talked about this in length, and you just never know where that pension adjustment is going to land at the end of the year until you get it. So at this point, until maybe Gary and I have some additional conversation, we're just keeping it out of the quarterly statements because it could swing greatly by the end of the year, dependent on interest rates and the number of people that enter and leave the pension system. So I think that's, I do want to, again, I've got to congratulate the financial staff on this because I know this was a heavy lift. And the reason it's a heavy lift is it's something new that we've never done. And then secondly, most institutions would use software to generate these, which makes the process a whole lot easier. Because that software is a little expensive and we don't need to be spending money on software right now, they actually generated these on their own. So it was a heavy lift for them, so I appreciate the work. So thank you, Ronaldo, Christy, and good work on that. So any questions, Chair Brody? I can take.
Susan, I'd just like to echo what you said. I commend you and your staff for doing that, for being an accountant in a prior life, seeing financial statements like this on a quarterly basis, I think will help us. It'll take a while to get everybody accustomed to it, but I think it's a very positive move. And again, thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move to our last information item, the quarterly internal audit report. Bruce?
Gary. As we get these slides pulled up, this is just a quick update. Every time I talk with you all, I like to share 4 different pieces of the pie here: project updates, hotline updates, other updates, and looking ahead, what's coming down the pipeline. So real quick, in the project update file, we've completed a review of the fiscal year 23 President's Travel and Entertainment expenses that's required by his contract. Wanted to say in your materials, there's 2 low-risk items that we found. They are not indicative of process concerns, but rather one-off incidents that we found during our audit. So wanted to really thank the president and Susan, who for having good processes in place. And as I said last time, a culture of doing the right thing, of reporting expenses in line with policy and state guidelines. We've got a few projects in progress. We're wrapping up undergraduate admissions, so we'll have that to report to you all next time. We have 2 other projects in process: purchasing, where we're honing in on personal service contracts, RFPs, and our internal approval workflow that we have at Western. And then finally, we'll do the special license plate review, where we get some money from the state and we use that to fund scholarships. We just confirmed that all the money we got, we applied to scholarships. So that's an update on all of the projects we've got completed and in progress. In the hotline, to date, calendar year to date, we've received 4 cases through the hotline. 3 have been closed. We have 1 in process right now that we're working on. And as you can see at the bottom, we've had 1 closed since we last met. There's not much to talk about on that one. We looked into the alleged misconduct that was there, and then we worked with leadership to confirm the facts of the case and take the actions necessary. I'll continue to remind everybody, if you see something, please say something. Reach out to me personally if you would like. My email and phone number's up there. If you want to be anonymous, the hotline information is there as well. Other updates. So team development, we've got a lot of activity there. I would like to introduce to the board our new senior auditor, Caitlin Durham. She's a Western Kentucky alum. She's got 2 bachelor's degrees, 1 in finance, 1 in economics. And she liked Western so much, she stayed and got a master's in applied economics. So after she graduated, she left. She did a little work in banking and the retail grocery industry. And then when we posted this position, she said, "Hey, I love Western so much as a student, I'm going to come back and work." So Caitlin, welcome to the team. And I look forward to all of you meeting and working with her more in the future. In addition, we are reviewing resumes and conducting interviews for our student intern position. I'm real excited on what this could bring to our office and some of the work that it can do, as well as a experience, education, or an educational experience for the students, getting some real life experience there. Finally, on this slide, we've got the increased campus awareness. When I got here, the president said, make sure everyone knows you're here and what you do and why you do it. So we've been getting out and doing that work. I'd like to thank the communications team that did a great article out there and put a picture out there for people to know who we are. And we actually got to talk with the Faculty Senate Budget and Finance Committee. And that was a great discussion that we had with all of them. So thank you for the invite. Regents on that. All right, other updates. Consultations. And that's a simple word and it means a lot of different things. So since June, we've done 13 consultations, and I tell folks, what is a consultation? And I've defined it very broadly for our office. And that is when someone from the university community calls us and talks to us. They may ask us a question. They may ask us to review a process. They may be thinking about changing a process. They may want us to sit on a committee. It could be a whole host of things. But the point is, they reached out to us. They know that we're here. They know that we're a resource. And so that's one of the key metrics we wanted to track this year, of people reaching out and knowing that we're here and we're building that relationship. We're growing here at the university. 13 since June, and we've had 7 in fiscal year 24 so far. Our goal for the year is 25. So if you're doing the math at home, we're right on track. And I'll advertise those services to anyone sitting around the periphery. Hey, give us a call if you need to talk about anything. We'd love to help out. The middle section there, thank you all for approving the charter. We got that done. And then some contributions to the profession. I volunteered to help out with an external review at East Tennessee State University to review their audit team. And are they conforming with the professional standards? It was a great opportunity to learn some best practices, bring some things back here to Western Kentucky. And it's also important for us to do that because we're going to ask people to come and volunteer and do ours next summer. So as Regent Brody asked me, it's not going to be the same people as it's not some quid pro quo. There's none of that. But it's important to do that. Put that out there and you get things back. And then finally, I presented at a professional conference, Artificial Intelligence, Ready or Not, here it comes. We talked about what's the state of artificial intelligence, what are some of the risks surrounding that, and what are some opportunities that you could capitalize in the higher ed industry with AI. Real quick, looking ahead, we're working on our quality assurance and improvement program. That's that external review that we're going to do next summer. Required every 5 years by our professional standards. But last time we had it done was 2019. Add 5 years to that, we're in 2024. So we're looking ahead and we're going to be ready to do that external review and report back to you the audit results of someone else auditing the auditor. So we get a little bit of our own medicine there. And just as a reminder, we're looking for a rating of generally conform. It's not a super exciting rating, but it's the best you can do. They say you generally conform with the standards. And then finally, we're going to present at the Staff Professional Development Day if we can get a proposal accepted. We love being out there and getting in front of folks and letting them know we're here and what we do. So that's a lot of the work we've been doing and what we're planning to do. Are there any questions from anyone?
Any further questions or comments? Bruce, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Regent Brody, and everyone for your support.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the finance and budget section of today's meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Regent Brody. We have been here a little over 2 hours. Let's take a 10-minute break. Be back at 4 after.
you're supposed to have the
Okay, step back, Lord. Give me that.
Right, right.
All right. Next item on our agenda is Student Affairs Committee. Regent Dennis.
I'm so glad, student affairs is not. I have the fun things to do. Y'all let Dr. Ethan Logan introduce the next part of this.
Thank you, Chair Davidson. I appreciate it very much. And thank you, Board, Dr. Dubon. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and feature one of our outstanding student organizations, groups, programs, endeavors, all in one. That is our program, Image West, which is a student-run PR and advertising agency. And I'm going to let them tell you all about this experience and how it works, and introduce to you David Potter, who is the faculty mentor and administrator for this program. And these wonderful students today, we're going to tell you about Image West. So, David.
Thank you. This thing on? There we go. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
As Ethan said, I'm David, and I am the co-director of Image West. Normally, I would have standing beside me Kara Glenn, who's our other co-director. She's having some maternity issues at the moment, so she's on medical leave for the next few weeks, but we'll hopefully be seeing her back again very soon. I also teach several classes in the Department of Art and Design, and I am a 39 and some year veteran of the advertising industry. So I was recently transplanted to Bowling Green, so thanks for everybody. Welcome. But we're here to talk about Image West, and I hope most of you will know something about it, but if you don't, as Ethan said, it's a student-run advertising, PR, digital, social media, whatever ad agencies do and call themselves today, we do it for NFTs. We draw the line at NFT. And this year is our 35th year in business. We are headquartered. Feel free to stop by with any projects that you care to. And the 35th year is kind of a momentous occasion for us for a number of reasons. There's that our very first class, and here's our current line. We've got about 18 kids who show up most days to help us out on the various projects that we work on. These are some of the clients that we have done business with over the last few years. The Louisville Zoo is something that we did past summer in collaboration with Through the Loom, Young Branch. Probably heard of a lot of this brand. We're currently working on that museum. We just did our first presentation last week. But as you can see, these are real brands, real clients. They give us real projects. They frequently pay us real money to go into the budget. But equally important on our part is that these experiences lead to real career. You'll be familiar with some of these logos up here at Google and Apple detailed introduction. BDO is one of the big McGilla names in the advertising business. They work for Pepsi. They did the Michael Jackson spot where it says hair on fire. I worked with the guy who did that. They work for Chrysler. They're part of the Omnicom group, which is the biggest advertising holding company in the world. Their CEO made $20 million last year, which is the point I try to impress upon these guys, telling them there is money to be made in advertising. The Mars agency is a big retail agency in Detroit. ESPN is a big national agency based in Austin. Nimbus is a multicultural agency based in Louisville. They were named the Small Agency of the Year nationwide last year. Through the Loom, I'm sure you've all heard of, and this little agency here based in Louisville. There's some work with them as well. So in our 35th year, we've got something exciting to share with you guys who haven't heard about it, which is a partnership that we're doing with Joe Anderson. Joe Anderson is the biggest, the oldest, and the most acclaimed ad agency in the state of Kentucky. We still have a relationship with them. Have been around since 1915. We have an office in Louisville and one in Columbus, Ohio as well. So the partnership works in several ways. This is a look at the Joe Anderson client list. A lot of companies that you'll be very familiar with. This one in particular, they're my card. I worked on that brand since 1988. But as you can see, these are the kinds of projects that the interns work on. This is kind of a hype reel that we put together. When we
The acoustics are not real good in there.
Should I speak up? All right, is this better? I'm gonna not talk for a minute and show you this. That's just a look at some of the projects again that these guys will get to work on when they're at the agency. So here's how the partnership works. First of all, Joe Anderson is directly supporting my being here. They shot me from my old side in that photo. That's Kara right there. We will be seeing her again soon. So I'm here on campus in part with the support of Joe Anderson. Second, we have access to these tools. These are the best marketing intelligence tools in the industry. All big agencies use them. Mintel is great for looking into what big brands are doing and the strategy behind what they're doing. MRI gives you media data. NetBase is a social listening tool that we're able to use. eMarketer is some of the same thing for digital. So we have access to those as part of the partnership. We don't pay anything for them. Joe Anderson pays a lot for them. And then third, and the most important thing, as far as we're concerned, is we are feeding the Joe Anderson Summer Intern Program with students from Image West. So the first crop of them had that experience this summer. This is a look at them. As you can see, one of them is here live and in person. So she's going to be able to tell you what that experience was like. So it's about creating opportunity for these guys, giving them a career path, a career that's viable and still growing. People tell you advertising is dead. Don't believe them. If you have Netflix, you know that it's not being supported by advertising. And for Joe Anderson, they get first dibs on some of these talented kids before some other agency snaps them up. That's how we intend to work it. It's a 3-year partnership. We'll reevaluate at the end of 3 years, and hopefully everybody will be satisfied and we'll sign up for another 3 years. So it's what we call a win-win. So for our first year in, here's the next 3 and hopefully counting. So that's the end of my spiel. I'm going to throw it over to you guys, let you know what the experience has been like. So why don't we start with Cameron, who actually had the experience.
Good morning, all. My name is Cameron Persley. I have been with Image West since fall 2022. I am actually a senior here, graduating in December. So I have been working with Image West as an account executive. I've been working on multiple projects. And thankfully, one of them was Louisville Zoo over the summer. I've been working with Joe Anderson along with my other interns. And we had the pleasure of also working with Maker's Mark, Jim Beam, and among many others, such as Norton Healthcare. And so during that internship, I got to have the honor of meeting multiple people across the networking of advertising in Joe Anderson, and as well as in other clients. And so I have really enjoyed my progress that I have done in Image West, as well as Joe Anderson. And thankfully, I've had David Botter and Kara Glenn lead me and guide me in what I want to do after graduation. And so hopefully after graduation, I'll be going into project management for an advertising agency, hopefully in Nashville. Going to look into more career paths there. But that's what pretty much what Image West has done for me, is really grasp a new identity of what I want to do in my future and work with real clients, real experience. And that's honestly what I'm very thankful for with Image West, and thankfully with this partnership with Anderson. I'm going to bring it on to Lily.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lily Lang. I am a senior this year, graduating in the spring. I'm a double major in graphic design and advertising. This is actually my first semester in Image West. To me, it's a great way to combine both of my majors, but also work in that real agency experience. I am one of the designers on the team this year, and being able to work with local and partners and helping develop our brand and things along those lines. But it's really giving me a lot of perspective, working with big teams, collaborating with my peers, and really developing those skills to hopefully use after graduation.
How's it going? My name's also Cam. So I actually graduated last semester in Image West. I was a graphic designer, and I was also a creative director for one of our marketing advertising campaigns that we did. Through Image West, I've learned to work like more cohesively with others. It's taught me how to take client feedback and to like transition that into, designs and work that exceeds what clients really want. And also through that, I've gotten more clients through Image West even after I graduated. So they've helped me get my foot in the door a little bit after graduation as well. So I'm really thankful for them in that sense. Thank you.
That's our pitch. If you have any business, please bring it our way. Always looking for projects to work on.
David, thank you for being here. And one of the things that I love about not just the partnership, but the work that our students do in this context is it's near and dear to my heart as someone who has grown talent in marketing during the course of my career in public relations. And we talked about this in the spring semester. What you want folks to have in their heads, for better or for worse, is the voice of someone who's going to be critiquing them, so that eventually they can do a self-critique that is as high quality as the person who implanted that voice. I've got a team of marketing folks that hear my voice in their head constantly. Sorry for them. But I want all of our young people to have David's voice in their head before they leave, so that when they're in the real world, they're asking and answering the questions like, what would he have said to me, or how would he have evaluated that? And at some point, you develop your own voice and your own self-critique, and then you get to build other people. But that is invaluable skill to have before you leave university. And our students are having this experience, and then getting to go in the summers to go in the best ad firms in the nation region. It's a remarkable partnership. And that we've managed to bring David and others here to work with these folks is it's amazing. So I'm really proud of them, but would love to have your questions.
I think non-traditional students, this might be something they really use. Are there non-traditional students that are just non-traditional students you hear from the get-go, or
Everybody in the program now is actually coming to campus. Desire and the ability to do Zoom, because that's the way business is conducted these days, as you know. We at Joe Anderson, we were about to move into our new headquarters the week before COVID, so we've basically been working remotely ever since then.
I have had some experience with this. When I was at the medical center, I was vice president of marketing, and we worked with Image West. But it was great working with them. They were so creative.
Applied learning, right? So what you take in the classroom is one thing, but putting into action in the real world and demonstrating to eventual employers that not just what I've learned, but what I've learned to do. making that knowledge and making it useful is a hallmark of what we do across all of our programs, but this is just a wonderful exemplar of that. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, if I could echo that, I'd say, yeah, when you keep talking. That's okay. No, that's perfectly fine. For me, the most profound learning experiences I had were coupled from classroom to practical experience. And so to me, this is an exceptional program for our institution and a great hallmark of things that we do here at Western. And so I like to say thank you to Cam, Cameron, Lily, and David, and our best to Kara, who couldn't be with us today for Image West. So glad to have them. And thank you, Chair Dennison, for our opportunity to present this group.
Let me add my thanks to all that. Good. Next is the executive committee. We have an action item number 1.
Chair Milliken, I'm pleased to present for the committee's consideration approval of provost emeritus status for Dr. David Lee. I will be brief in reading this today as Provost Lee is not with us, but will be in December when I will read the totality of the action item. David Lee served Western Kentucky with distinction for 48 remarkable years. Graduated from Ohio State. He began teaching with us in 1975 and made his way up the ranks from assistant to full professor in 1985. He's written 2 books and has been funded by the National Endowment Library Association, Smithsonian. He had a long career of administrative service, including Associate Dean of Potter, College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Science. He also served as the interim head of music, interim dean of Potter College, and most importantly, he served as dean of Potter College of Arts and Letters from 1994 to 2015, 21 years of service. He served the broader institution in a number of ways, including Richards Hall construction and thinking about general education back in the late 80s and early aughts. So he also was a provost of WKU and was instrumental in my understanding of academic affairs and navigated in a humane and graceful way the difficulty of spring 2018. So I'm personally in debt to David Lee and for all of his support for me. He continued to serve us for the past year as historian on temporary retirement or partial retirement, and officially stepped back from WKU this summer. So we'll have a chance to recognize him fully, but you have my full-throated support of this action item.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion then to approve provost emeritus status for Dr. David Lee.
I'd like to make that motion.
Have a motion to second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the strategic plan update.
Thank you all. I will try to get this done so no one has to say good afternoon to this body. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, and much of what I'll say today has been covered in one way or another by others, so should be able to move through this fairly rapidly and get everybody out here on time. So these are the 4 areas. I'm just going to introduce you by name only today to the implementation committee for this year. It changes each year to some degree. Talk about quickly the background of the strategic planning process so you're all up to speed how we got here in the first place. And then a quick summary of the past 5 years. Provost did an excellent job of covering academic affairs. And then a little bit of where we're headed for the next 5 years. So this is our committee today. The way we tend to arrange ourselves is by the 3 major structures of the strategic plan, which is this document here that I'm sure you all have copies of and is available online. The website for the strategic plan has the descriptions for each of these individuals and where they come from and how they are associated to the university. Remember that the strategic plan comes from the mission, so it's a mission-driven plan. And this is some mission that this body approved of previously, so we're good to go and continuing to follow this mission for the next 5 years with the strategic plan. Just going back to the origin, in 2017-18, President Capone asked to put together a series of committees to form a strategic plan. He desired a 10-year strategic plan, which is somewhat unusual for universities. Very often they're 3 to 5 years. We put together a group steering committee, and then 6 of these other committees had some 75 people from the community and all across the university involved. As you just scan, and this slide back will be available to you to look at and read more closely, so I won't spend a lot of time on each. But if you just look at some of the words in that, you're going to see that these words appear as goals in the strategic plan. And each of these committees wrote at least 10-page white documents on what they desired, and those are still available and still referred to. So we retain the core of what this university was being driven by at that time, while modifying it due to the changes in our environment over time. So this is the core of the plan. We have 5 goals within our students area, 4 goals within our Hill, and 7 goals within our community and beyond. And you can see some of those same words that you saw with the names of the committee showing up as goals here. I won't spend the time to go through those, but each of those goals has multiple strategies for how to achieve those goals. I'm going to bring that word up again towards the end here in just a few minutes. So in August 3rd of 2018, we went from over a 10-month period from starting this process to this body approving of this process. And it was also part of the board retreat in that year. And that really kicked off implementing the strategic plan, which is where the implementation committee grew out of, is the need to continue to follow that. So what's the charge of the implementation committee? That is to keep annual reviews and tabs on how we're doing on the strategic plan. And then because we knew a 10-year plan was somewhat unusual, we did a pretty in-depth review last year as the 5-year mark. So we're halfway through now. And we continue to look at how, again, global changes such as the COVID epidemic allowed us to make changes in the direction, typically more in the strategies of trying to achieve goals than the goals themselves. And as an example, we could not be doing what we're doing today without COVID, if you will, having a Zoom meeting with half the board present. So there were some good things that came out of COVID, although I won't say that to Dr. Bale at the moment because he's probably not feeling that way.
Got that right.
This to me is just a little more interesting than organizational charts, but this is kind of how we conceive of the strategic plan implementation committee. We have those 4 abbreviations that the provost mentioned before: SOF, ESC, AA, and BOR, which is you folks, Board of Regents. So there's sort of this structure, and those are the names of the committee members that are our students, our Hill, and our community and beyond. And then these are all the other entities in the university that are associated, the 5 colleges, the various support units, athletics, communications, and marketing that are always a great partner for our team because they keep us informed of what's going on when our committee members aren't part of one of the entities that are moving forward. Philanthropy and alumni engagement, and then faculty senate and staff senate and the SGA. So we have everybody involved either directly on our committee or we have a contact point to that entity. Please read this carefully. These are the major metrics that we follow. We post these every year. Typically, we post these in November. I put the little note on there because CPE has changed some of the dates that they normally sort of authorize the data that we give them, and that's true for throughout the state. So it's going to push back this update a little bit. Usually we try to post something the first week of November. It may be a little bit later in the month. You can see that this update is from April because we also get some updates on some of these major metrics during the spring semester. But these are things that follow from the state performance metrics, some of our own self-driven ones, the NCAA for athletics, various things that we either want to adhere to because it makes us do better as an institution, but also some of the things we have to adhere to. This was the process that we implemented over the first 5 years. So each of these red boxes encapsulate some of the goals that we started with. And you can read those below. Again, you'll have access to this, but somewhat a progression from students to Hill to community, but a mix throughout. And at this point, over the first 5 years, we have taken action on all of our strategic plan goals to varying levels of emphasis at this point. But they all are moving forward. As with anything, you can't move every goal and wouldn't want to all at the same time because some follow naturally from others. Oops, sorry. Just a few highlights, and you've heard a lot about these, especially from the provost this morning, but pretty regularly from the president and others. These are the 5 goals of our students, and we've done things with the scholarship model. Opportunity Fund has really blew through its first 50 million goal pretty quickly and is up to 100 million now. Done a lot with the students the provost talked about today, completion and success as well. DEI, we started this plan where we had a 5-year DEI in place, and now that is going through renewal and updating and preparation for the global stage. And I won't, the provost talked about LLC, so that I just put a little highlight in there, that component, but he already covered that quite well. Progress with our Hill, these are the 4 goals again on the left, just some examples. Market analysis and compensation, Monday Hall that you were a part of last year. The budget model that's been talked about today, and those are just some of the indicators that you've seen already. Cultural innovation, provost talked about CITL, Center for Teacher and Learning, and how that's expanded and how they're doing annual program review now. The emphasis for that's going to continue to be an emphasis on research and creative activity. So just some good progress in all these areas. And then with our community and beyond, I'm not going to read through all this list, but one of the ones that I'm going to point out is right at the bottom, philanthropy modernization. And that's one in which COVID really changed the way they had to do business. They've done a remarkable job in modernizing how they approach fundraising for the institution. And it's really been a good model that's been able to be used by a lot of other components of the institution of what can we do? And Image West just talked about it. You know, that industry has become a very Zoom-oriented industry. And so that ability to shift, obviously when we created the strategic plan, nobody had that in their head, that we were going to do anything in that way. So that's a change in strategy, not a change in goal. And just, our group did this last year, and you don't have to worry about reading all this. What I want you to see is that in the middle, either in the red box or the green circle, is an action that a unit, the first one on the left was the ag department, on the right was global learning, that they started with the idea of achieving one of their goals. And what we were able to do is say, well, how does that strategy that you're following out connect? And what you can see by these links is that an action by unit uses its funds better, is more efficient if it has ramifications across our students, our Hill, and our community and beyond. And so we regularly try to make sure that when people are putting investment in something, that it's not a one-off. It's not that one-time money. It's recurring. And it's going to have recurring returns for the university because it stretches across goals and opportunities for students, faculty, staff, and our community members. So the next 5 years, as the provost mentioned, we get to do SACS reaccreditation. That's actually helping us because of what all the units at the university have to do is tell us how they're achieving their goals and then link that to the strategic plan. So we have data at that level. We're also looking at some of these things that have been talked about. Hitting that 60-80, we're getting very close. Continuing to prepare for the global stage. The innovation, research and creativity continue to be a lighthouse. Would be remiss if I didn't mention the innovation campus and the great action that's happened there and the ramifications that has for the university and the community. And then again, continuing to invest in the future and hitting that 100 million mark, but also doing so much more than that. So with that, some of the beautification at the top of the hill. Happy to take any questions, always here to serve you. Dr. Bell served on our committee last year. It was great to have his perspective in the 5th year, always willing to talk to any of the board members about anything to do with strategic planning and implementation. And thank you for your time.
Have any questions?
Ever visit my office, on my coffee table is the strategic plan, because this is our North Star. And we have outcome data, we track metrics, and there are some things that I said we were going to do that 6 years ago, folks looked at me like I was crazy. One of which was living learning community to the first year village, and the other one was getting to 80% retention, 60% graduation rate, and raising all that money for the opportunity fund. We've accomplished so much and more, and it's the entire community that's bought into the strategic plan. And unlike many places, this institution needed a plan that was built from the bottom up. It gets shaped when it comes to the executive committee and the president, but the reality is all of this was stuff that the community talked about and aspired to do. And because of that, I think you've gotten better buy-in around the plan. And the other thing, and a 10-year plan is odd in higher education. But as I talked, and it was me, I talked to everybody who led this. Bruce and I had lots of conversations. If you're going to do hard things, don't let the time be a restraint on that. So getting to 80% retention, you're not going to do that in 3 to 5 years. It's just too hard. So why not say we're going to do hard things and then give ourselves the time to do it, which is what we've done, and create tremendous benefit. Really proud of where we are. I can't believe it's been 5 years. It feels like about 20. And I guess we have about 20 to go.
I'd like to compliment Bruce. He's been involved in this from day one, and it's also worth pointing out that this was very comprehensive, the original strategic planning task force. How many people were involved in it, and actually on committees, Bruce? It was large.
5 or so.
Yeah. And really tried to be inclusive, was inclusive, and the process beats on. And as the president said, it's very aspirational in nature, and it's fun to see us moving toward some of those original goals and changing and putting in new ones. So, but Bruce does a great job with everybody.
Real quick, I just want to say, talk a lot, this isn't really relevant to any of that. The attentiveness and responsiveness of Bruce and the staff related to some of the questions that we've had as we work toward pre-accreditation, I think it's commendable because some of it, a lot of it was after hours, and I appreciate that as someone new to a particular process or two. I can't say enough about that in a day and age where sometimes email responses can be several days. I was looking at sometimes minutes, and I think that's worthy of mentioning.
Any other questions or comments? Bruce, thank you so much for that presentation, sir. Appreciate your hard work. And appreciate the presentation.
Thanks very much. Have a good day.
The next information item is the Hilltopper Fieldhouse rendering.
So I will kick this off, and then Todd, do you want to go second? Or just hand her up to the, so we've talked about this project for, well, since before I even arrived, there was the conversation around an indoor practice facility, which this is not. This is much larger than that. And so I was really pleased that we managed to work toward reducing our debt, creating space for us to be able to do a project that brings together 5 of our most visible and most competitive organizations on this campus. When you think of a field house, you would typically think about athletics. And that's part of this. And you're going to see pretty pictures around that. But we have a world-class forensics team, arguably the best forensic speech and debate team in the nation, and certainly the winningest speech and debate team in the nation in the past 15 years. And they needed an appropriate home for them to recruit the talent to WKU that we expect to continue that tradition. They compete against the finest universities in the country, including Harvard and every place else that you would imagine that does speech and debate. They are included in this project. Esports, which is another one of our highly visible competitive spaces, which is only growing in visibility and national attention, included in this project. And we've been working hard to grow the size and scope of our marching band. Confirmed for me just last week, we continue to be the largest marching band in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, moving toward 300 members of that marching organization, and the best band in the Commonwealth. I'm really proud of that. All of them enhancing the visibility of the institution. Our marching band used to practice, or continues to practice, on South Lawn, where our tailgating space is. And so for us to build what is truly a world-class marching program, we need them to have a permanent space for them to practice. They will now have that in the field house. And then finally, it is a place for the football team to practice, not to minimize that, but it's important for them. And then because it sits on the footprint of some of our older baseball facilities, we had to reimagine those as well, particularly with a new coach and the trajectory of that program. So it is an exciting day to be able to share with you. And we have our architect partners here, the renderings of the field house as we move toward a groundbreaking on the 10th of November. Thank you.
Thanks. Should have just showed slides.
There you go.
Saying all
Brian.
Well,
There we go, Brian, you do the.
I don't have to do much of an introduction, but good morning and early afternoons. I'd like to introduce from HKS Architects, Fred Ortiz. He is a global practice director. He leads their collegiate program, and they have been instrumental in what we're going to see here today. And Tim Doling is also here, is our partner from K. Norman Berry, who just was design manager, project manager. We just completed the soccer softball facility under their leadership. Together, they partnered. They're working with us great with athletics. And with that, Brett.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very excited to be here today representing the HKS KNBA team. And I will say that as a former athlete, as a parent with kids who've been playing Division I athletics, and now as an architect doing projects like this, I get really excited because I know that the significance of what Dr. Gaboni is saying here about how these students, you know, and what they move through on a daily routine and how can we make them better, it excites the heck out of me. So this is why I do what I do. So when we do this, is that we have to be very intentional. We have to equip the students to excel in the classroom and in their competition space. So encouragement, providing the tools for innovation, learning, collaboration, and success. So in this case, we're going to create a new home for a lot of these individuals, which is very exciting. And this environment of learning and collaboration will be incredible. So along with that, we celebrate great success of the programs that will continue to grow and succeed. So when we first started the project, we actually dove into the master plan. We wanted to immerse ourselves and understand it, get our heads around it. And we walked away with this thing about extending the legacy and the energy of Western Kentucky community from the top of the hill, down the hill, along the Avenue of Champions. And so with that, there were some really awesome guiding principles that are noted in there. And that drove our process. So things like reimagining thresholds, accelerate community and building on campus, focus on student access and showcase the student journeys, the influence of culture for holistic thinking, and then unite the teams around common purpose. So with that, you know, just for orientation, as Dr. Gaboni was mentioning, the area where it's currently the outdoor practice and the baseball facilities. So north on the top of the page is the stadium, the football stadium. Ballpark is on the bottom edge. Of course, Avenue of Champions on the right. The new field house, 120,000 square feet, will be the home for Western Kentucky forensics and esports. And along with that is, of course, the indoor field house, which will provide training for the pride of the Hilltoppers, the Big Red Marching Band, Hilltopper athletics, potential for intramurals, and of course the ability to flex and support the greater Western Kentucky University community. The site is very, has a lot of constraints. So we were forced to kind of start to stack and overlap things. But what was important is that we gave each entity their autonomy, right? They needed to have their own brand identity. And so that was kind of a challenge, and also creating a front door. So what we see is that this sort of L-shaped, this kind of a two-story portion of the project actually begins to house those components. And as we look at sort of a slightly aerial view, hovering over Avenue of Champions, Jonesville Plaza, this notion of extending that architecture that's already embodied up here at top of the hill down Avenue of Champions. It's almost like a pearl necklace, and you got all these jewels that are sort of framing up, and also those are going to really begin to take the experience of maybe it's the first time impression when someone visits campus. It's going to take it to another level. But you also will be able to change tradition. I think the Topper Walk on game day, to have the band, move through this space, and the whole street lined with fans, and as they take a right in between the field house and the stadium as they make their way to the locker, it could be a fantastic experience. So as we create our new front door, we also have assigned space for practice for the forensics team. We're going to have a large classroom which can be subdivided and give them a couple of spaces there. And then also when they can just be normal students, so a little pocket lounge where they can really just relax in between practice and maybe even competition. The band will have access to storage, as you see on the far left, from within the field house and from the exterior along Avenue of Champions. And then one of the nice things as you get into the lobby, well, you're going to be presented with something that's very open air, because it's going to borrow a lot of natural light with all the glazing we have on the exterior. But it'll be easy wayfinding, be able to go upstairs. There's going to be opportunities for naming and signage, and of course, technology that could really infuse this space as one moves into the forensic zone to the left. And then you get a little sneak peek of what might be the entrance to the field house. On the upper level, it's all about esports. And likewise, there's going to be practice space, rooms where they can actually do their thing. And then, of course, the shared conference rooms or the competition space can also be something that could be more than one function. So with that, when we get up the staircase and onto the second level, immediately you're going to be introduced to that brand, that culture of esports. And then even down to the way we treat lighting and sculpture that kind of mimics the essence of the red towel. But as you move into that space, full energy, dynamic, and then of course you can easily flip simply by dropping a curtain, and all of a sudden you've got forensics training or competition that's happening in there, and even down lighting on the flooring, and so completely change the theme in that space. And then as you move down the hallway, obviously the practice rooms, for each of the teams, and a little breakout space where they can just be casual and enjoy conversation. We're also going to celebrate all the accolades. I mean, these guys win championships, right? So we have to be able to find ways to celebrate that. And actually, can you imagine as a prospective student walking through this facility? It would be really incredible. And then just making our way back down as we move into the indoor. Here you can see where the band can just really take this over. It's a large volume, over almost 90,000 square feet. We'll have clerestory lighting, so we'll have some nice ambient feeling in there. Little catwalk for viewing for coaches and staff and training and things like that. And of course, when you open the doors to the band, you can also open it to the community and intramurals and things of that nature. So it becomes a beautiful flex space. And of course, it's going to support the football team. They win a conference championships. And then as we make our way back out and keep moving farther down the hill, here we are at what is currently the existing baseball entrance out at left field corner. But you can kind of see how the boulevard or the Avenue of Champions, the essence of what is happening up high on the hill begins to make its way down the street. The architecture begins to scale down and be able to transition around the corner. You start to see the batting tunnels and things of that nature, and the indoor facility hovering over top. we make our way in there, that plan, from left to right, you know, it's obviously support, like laundry and equipment, but the heart of the plan, it could be, is where the players and staff are gonna be, where the locker room and their wet areas, there's gonna be a nice lobby, a weight room that has flexibility that extends into the batting tunnels, and that lobby space also connects into the indoor. So there's gonna be a lot of really great circulation opportunities. And then of course, when one gets up to the upper level, it's mostly coaches and staff, but there will be a large team meeting space, which will also provide multi-purpose functions there. And then the really nice thing is that the bottom edge of that, where the coaches are, it's prime real estate because the game is just down below. So obviously the team meeting space and that terrace could also be utilized as VIP experience on game day. So here's just a quick shot of the lobby. You can see kind of how they might be able to move up and get into the upper level or move right into their haven, which is a really dramatic space. I mean, you know, the splash of branding in the ceiling, really awesome blockers, and this is a place for them. You know, it's private, it's for them to enjoy. It also not only will be their locker room, but also their lounge space, which would be really exciting. And then of course, as we hover up above left center field, I mean, you kind of get the essence of how the architecture and the forms are wrapping the corner, and the architecture and the essence of what happens up above, very similar to what's happening in the College of Business. That aesthetic is making its way down the hill, and it's really going to make an impact on the impression of visitors to campus. So moving to the press box. So here, there's area directly above the ceiling in that club space, which is interesting to us. So we did all the math, studied the cross section, and we literally began to take that real estate that fronts the field and lined it with all that you need to operate a game. So it's everything from broadcast, home and away spaces, writing press, and suites that are going to line that whole edge. And then, so you can see here where what is currently metal panel now is now going to be fully glazed. And it's going to be providing incredible views and connection to the experience that's happening down in the field. So here's a shot of the club. And so because of the renovation, the ceilings and floorings and things like that are going to be upgraded to give it a much lighter and open feeling and connectivity to the game. And then when you're up in the suite level, at the end, you can actually see how these spaces are they're actually going to be tiered. So it'll be able to have people that are going to be at the island that can come down and sit to enjoy the game and move freely throughout the space. So with that, I think that concludes the show, right? Is that good? I think I did it within 10 minutes, which is my allotted time.
Questions or comments?
I will say, if we reflect on what we've just done to get to this point, and let's face it, it's going to make an impact. And to me, our group, it's about a legacy. It's about making an incredible statement, and we're really proud to have created this partnership with you and collaborate, creating this vision. But I believe that it is going to influence. It's going to enhance retention, amplify the student success. It'll transform the quality of the WKU community on many levels, and of course, it's going to strengthen the Avenue of Champions as a campus asset.
I love the fact that it serves so many different student groups, and you just cannot emphasize enough our forensics program. It's probably the greatest forensic program in the history of the country. I mean, they certainly deserve their own space, as do the other groups. So that's very appealing.
Really a nice presentation. We appreciate those renderings.
Thank you.
It's a good looking space there.
Our partners have worked hard to match what is sometimes a difficult facility to the collegiate Georgian style on our campus. You go on some campuses, and it's just this big ugly barn plopped down next to beautiful facilities, and we're not going to do that. And they worked really hard with lots of feedback, including from me, to get us to this place. I'm really happy with the work that they've done to kind of match our vision for the entirety of the campus with this facility that serves so many young people. And competitively, not for forensics and esports, these are some of the finest in the nation for those two groups. For athletics, our facilities are on par with any group of five program in the nation with this edition, and will be competitive with many other places as well, P5 included. So Brian, is the anticipated completion date, we will start on the press box the day after football ends, or somewhere in there. And then same thing for the field house. Field house will take 18 months to 2 years probably. So we're looking at fall 25, same time frame as the College of Business building. The press box sometime next fall, hopefully. I'm pushing. The club has to be reopened before the season begins next August. That's prime revenue for us. So 25 will be a fun year to celebrate.
A lot of building going on with the business school.
There's one constant on a university campus.
Two hard things. I heard that.
Two hard things.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much for that presentation. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Great work. All right.
Oh, we got some more. Good.
Oh, yeah. We're not done. Thank you. I appreciate it. I believe that concludes the business of the executive committee. I would at this time entertain a motion to division of KRS 61.810 for the discussion of proposed. I have such a motion.
Chairman, I would like to move that the board go into closed session. It's provided in the KRS 61.810 for the body discussion of proposed or pending litigation against fraud.
Very good. So we will declare we're going into executive session.